I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Keyboard back here.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kramer.
Present.
Commissioner O'Rourke.
Here.
Commissioner Rexroth.
Present.
Chairman Wessel.
Here.
Commissioner Ross.
Here.
Commissioner Allgaier.
Here.
Commissioner Lautner.
Present.
Thank you. We now have the approval of the agenda and any late additions. We have one late addition that has been distributed from Kathy Hartzfeld. We'll put that down for number 12 on the agenda if that works. And then on agenda item number 8, instead of an action item, I think that's a discussion only because you got those materials late, and then we'll, if we can, we'll move that forward for discussion on Tuesday night. Any other additions? Yes, Commissioner
And you're
Lutton.
calling number 12 drain commissioner vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. I would also like to add under 5E, unpaid invoice for Raymond Robson.
Okay.
I want to make that C, and then we have D and E, or it doesn't really, or B.
And I think we have an update from Raymond on that. They're working on that. So we'll deal with it at that time. Yes. Anything else? Could I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, and we have an agenda. We have three presentations, starting with the administrator update, and just a reminder that our administrator must leave at 9:45 today, so we're on our own after that. And I would also say that Deb did a wonderful job on Saturday at the Veterans Day.
Right, she did.
That was wonderful.
In regards to my report, I did compile this for you all last night and sent you an email, just in the essence of time. I don't think that there are any critical issues to address right now, just a couple of things in terms of the kudos retirement party for Trudy. And then there are some important updates that I provided to the board in regards to the Leelanau Tower project and some of the documents that have been presented, and we'll be moving forward with discussions on HVAC and the lower level project, and we're working on getting a date set for the Building and Grounds Committee to move those things forward. So that will be, again, moving forward. Thank you to Michelle from the standpoint of helping to work with our new Senior Services Director and talking about millage and millage planning. So that was a great meeting. I think there are the committee will be meeting to discuss additional steps to that as well. And I think, again, everything else is pretty much self-explanatory on there. I know that we have some dates to set for budget workshop to finalize some of those things. And I know Laurel will be available to address some of those things later in the agenda as well.
Thank you. So we have our 13th Judicial Circuit Court update. You want to introduce that?
Sure. Trina is making her way to the desk to give an update. I think this is kind of just part of our traditional updating and reporting. And so I will turn it over to Trina Girardin, the Circuit Court Administrator.
Hello.
Hi.
So I've been here for 8 years. I know most of you, some of you I have not met yet, but the circuit court covers criminal felonies and civil cases over $25,000. I'm sure you can see all of our info in the packet I presented with you. We're what you call a multi-county court. So we cover 3 counties. We cover Antrim County, Grand Traverse County, and Leelanau County. Leelanau County this year is 10% of our budget. That's based on caseload percentages. So that percentage does fluctuate by year. I think the year before it was maybe 11%. So kind of in that area. Grand Traverse County is our fiscal agent. So they provide all our benefits. We're housed in Traverse City. Leelanau County is just billed back that 10%. We work in conjunction with the county clerk's office. So once Michelle's office accepts all our court filings, we process those filings by scheduling motions, conducting trials, our judges signing court orders, stuff like that. So I'm just going to go through some highlights and then I'll go through the annual report. If you have questions, I would welcome them as we go. We kind of talk about stuff pre-pandemic and post-pandemic now. So our caseload and what we've shown since 2020 is kind of opposite of what was happening. So our cases were decreasing, COVID happened. Our cases were really low. And then since COVID, we're kind of steadily increasing again. Those cases are back up. We're doing more trials. It started virtual and Zoom court, which never existed before. So from COVID, we really don't have any backlog compared to other courts around the state. We continued doing jury trials. We were down for about a month and continued doing Zoom court. And for about a year, all hearings were heard on Zoom. We were the first court in the state to conduct a jury trial after the pandemic. We think maybe even in the nation. We continue to be a leading court in my file, a paperless court. Our ADR plan, our collections plan, in meeting time guidelines set by SCAO, which were overseen by the State Court Administrative Office. So I will get into the annual report. So we'll start on page 2. You can see from the graphs and the numbers that our civil caseload of new filings and our total caseload continue to increase since the pandemic in 2020, steadily increasing. It's almost back up to where it was. It took a couple years. We were just low there for a little bit. On page 3, you can see the same thing. Our criminal caseload continues to steadily rise. New filings, our total caseload. You can see with the charts that I just wanted to explain the difference between caseload and filing. So a total caseload, one case is one defendant or one civil case. One case could have 100 filings in it. So that's why that number is almost tripled as the caseload. Page 4 with trials. We average have about 15 trials a year. You can see that 2022 was 36 trials. It almost tripled since the year before. We just think that's a complete anomaly. We also think it might be from the end, the tail end of COVID, where crime was down and now it's back up. Defendants weren't taking pleas as much. They were going to trial.
Thank you for that. I've heard the word on the street is that the prosecutor in Grand Traverse County, at least, is really going after criminals. And the word on the street is they're happy about that. So they're saying things such as, we're glad she's taking it to the wall, or that she's not just letting them off. There's no, less slaps on the hand or on the wrist. And so there's more follow through. And so I just want to share that. I don't know if is that a part of this, because I'm not quite sure when she started, but
I would probably agree with you. I think, during 2020, crime was down, but also they probably, well, if it was down, they weren't charging as harsh a crime. So, I mean, not as many felonies were being committed.
Okay. All right, thank you. And most of these are they, is there a lot of shoplifting? Is there
What do
Sure.
you see most of?
Shoplifting would be a misdemeanor in district court. So typically with felonies, it's third offense or more. So it's 3 drunk drivings, more serious crimes, embezzlement over a certain amount, aggravated stalking. Michelle might be able to help with more, but what's that? A lot of drug cases, a lot of criminal sexual conduct cases.
Breaking and entering.
Breaking and entering, Michelle added.
Higher level. Thank you.
So even though we have continued to have more trials this year, I think it's going to go down a little bit. 2022 was a very crazy year, getting kind of caught back up from COVID and just the high amount of trials we had. Page 5 and 6 are alternative dispute resolution. That's our mediation. We send every case to mediation. Every case is ordered to mediation, and that's because we see a good turnout. 40% of cases resolve at mediation. That means 40% of our cases don't go to trial just from mediation. And then even after mediation, some cases might settle on their own. The court might dismiss it for different various reasons. So we find mediation to be very, very successful. Page 7 for friend of the court. You can see a steady decline in FOC caseload. I talked to the friend of the court director. He thinks that decline, the state's theory is that marriages have gone down, therefore divorces have gone down statewide. So they're seeing less cases of those. Page 8, family division. So the family division judges run their own court, their own hearings, their own cases. The 2 circuit court judges just oversee maybe policies, procedures, administrative items. So we actually got this information straight from Cameron Clark's office and our other 2 counties. Page 9 is the Michigan Department of Corrections. So PSIs are a huge thing with MDOC. It's a pre-sentence investigation report. An MDOC agent interviews a defendant, they write a PSI, they provide it to the circuit court judge for their sentencing. So it's like a life history of what has happened with this defendant. And then page 10, our budget, between all 3 counties, we have about a $2 million budget. You can see that collections was down in 2020. That's because per the state court administrative office, we were ordered to stop collecting because of COVID. And then in 2021, we kind of started soft collecting again. And then last year we were back to full collecting. And that's why you can see that steady rise back up. And that is the annual report.
Any questions? Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
We now have a presentation with Point Broadband, and I know Chris is on the line. Hi, Chris. And are you going to introduce this?
Well, I can, certainly. I won't go into a lot of detail other than to let you know we've got Todd and David from Point to give us an update on a report they'd given us a couple of weeks ago. It sounds like it's going to be very positive, and I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say. So without further comment, I'm going to hand it to Todd and David.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Todd
you,
and David, for being here. Just for your information, we have Frank Sipka here from Cherryland Electric. And when you're done, I've invited him to comment if there are any questions about Cherryland Electric's part in the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Chris. And we've also got Dan Sullivan, who's our Michigan General Manager, on the line with David and myself today. So it's good to see all of you again. We were told, when we came back, don't ask for money. So I am pleased to say that we are not asking for any additional funds for the fiber project. That makes me less than pleased that, we've got a project in front of us that economically, is not a good project for Point Broadband. However, we get excited about improving lives with fiber internet. And we also, as one of our values, we just always want to do the right thing. So we believe that we can continue to improve a lot of lives in Leelanau County with the fiber. And we also think it's the right thing to do to get this project done. So we intend to move forward. We should have about a third of the addresses covered by the end of this year, and we expect to have the remaining 2/3 finished by the end of next year. That's our construction plans, and our engineers, our construction teams, our finance teams, they have been really, really busy, trying to make this work the best way it can, and we feel good about our plans. We feel good about moving forward. There's one open item, and I'm glad the Cherryland representative is with us today, because that's where we have an open item. We've been having some very productive conversations with Cherryland, and see, right now, part of the bill is on the Cherryland poles, and that's a blank check. That's a blank Point Broadband check at this point, and we can't, operate with a blank check. There's just too much uncertainty and already a challenging project. So our team and the Cherryland team are working very well together, and it would appear that, there will be a number that makes a lot of sense for us. But it sounded, I don't want to speak for Cherryland, so we'll let them, really say what the facts are. But the way I understand it is the Cherryland engineers are doing the make-ready assessment on the poles that the Point Broadband fiber will go on. And in about a month, they will have a number they can share with us that would determine the cost of our fiber going on those poles. The early discussions are very favorable. We certainly expect it to be a good number that fits within our construction budget, but it is an open item and we need to check that box. And it sounds like we're about a month away from checking that box. But our construction crews are active. We're completing the cabinets, the fiber cabinets that are in process, and we expect to have a third of the addresses finished before the weather does not allow us to continue. And then as soon as the thaw out has happened, we'll be very active and hustling to get this fiber project completed as soon as possible. We know y'all are anxious to get it done. I promise you, we are equally, if not more, anxious to get the fiber network built and get the consumers, hooked up on the best internet in the world. So that's our report, and we're certainly interested in hearing from Cherryland too, but we're also would like to address any questions that you may have.
When was the 2/3, the remaining 2/3? What was the target date for completion of that then?
We expect to have that completed by the end of 2024.
Okay. We had been hopeful that I think the last time you spoke to us, that was, you were shooting for June, but that's been changed to December then.
Yes, sir. We were hopeful for the June date also, but I think with this delay and then us reaching the winter months, that's really what's resulted in the delay. But we are going to work our tails off, to get it built as early as possible. We're very motivated, to get this project completed.
Thank you. Yes, Gwen.
I'd like to say that you don't cover most of my district, but I have a couple of people that you probably, I'm sure more than a couple, but I really appreciate the work of your manager and your guys in the field. They called me personally. I called them first. They called me back to make sure they get everything they need to cover this one person who has been waiting and waiting and is so grateful for your work. And I find the guys in your field extremely helpful and accommodating, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. That's a reflection of Dan Sullivan, who's on the phone with us. That's he and his team, and that's a testament to their passion about improving lives with our fiber internet. So we appreciate those comments. Most of the time we don't receive the positive comments. We just receive the negative ones. We're not perfect, so we do get some negative ones, but I'm so appreciative for those comments. Thank you very much, and that's really a testament to Dan and his team. So appreciate that.
And I'd like you to tell you, you've done a good job. They always say we love improving people's lives. They've got that down, and it's true.
That's our vision. We want everybody, when their feet hit the floor in the morning, that's what we want them thinking about. And when they go to bed at night, after they say their prayers, we want them thinking about improving lives too. So yeah, it's part of our DNA. So thank you.
Commissioner Rush.
I did see crews out yesterday morning. Does that mean the pause is over then and crews are back out working in our county?
I do not know that answer. I thought we had crews finishing up the open cabinets, as we speak, but I don't know specifically. Sitting here in Alabama, I can't verify that.
Yeah, we've got construction crews working on cabinets 5 and 6 right now. Those are the two that were 5 we should have opened up by the end of this month. 6 we're pushing hard to get it opened up before the weather kicks in, so mid to late December. So we do have, I want to say, about 6 construction crews working right now, and we're still doing installations on the stuff that's built, and occasionally here and there a service call.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Lettner.
Yeah, I think you did say that at the last meeting that you would have crews continue to hook up where the cabinets were already in. And so we have seen that continuous work being done by the crews. So we do appreciate that. And I also heard from actually Cherryland Electric member last night that's hooked up, and they're extremely pleased with the speed of the internet. So they're happy, very happy with it. So thank you for that. I had a couple other comments. I'm gonna let Frank speak to Cherryland because
Yes.
when we're ready.
Frank, why don't you come to the table? And I hope Todd and Dan and Chris, you can stay on.
Okay, thanks. Hi, Todd, Dan, everyone. So yeah, Cherryland here certainly still remains committed to helping point with this project as much as we possibly can. We've been working very closely with their team in the last week or two, talking through this. We did offer, as per request from them, to kind of solidify the future of the financials of this project, to go through and do a final estimate on the remaining make-ready work that will need to be completed. We've completed about 77% of that evaluation and estimating so far. So we're working diligently right now. We put a second person on that. We've got 2 people working basically full-time on doing that drive-out work and the final estimating and engineering on that make-ready work for the last 23%, so we can get them that kind of a final number that we're willing to commit to here within the next month or so for what it'll take to get this done. We don't see any particular expected problems or unexpected problems in that area as far as new unexpected make-ready expenses or costs. But we'll know for sure here in the next month or so what those numbers are. And then we'll be able to stand behind those, and Point will be able to put their financials around that and make sure that they can get this project done as they plan.
And I believe, was it Rachel who said we'd actually come in under budget earlier? Right? So
based on our projection, when we started this discussion with Point, back in 2022, early 2022, we estimated about a $6,000 a mile costs for make-ready work. We're coming in about $5,100 per mile so far on that. I think that's kind of what we've all kind of come to the agreement on what that price has been so far. And it sounds like from Point's perspective, as long as we can continue to stay in that range, or at that price point, it seems like their financial model still works, but they need to know. right? And so we're going to work through that. We've went through a full discussion with them, the differences of the areas where we're anticipating underground construction in the next 5 years and the stuff that we're doing right now. And next year, we've worked through with their construction designers and all of those areas, so they don't have any surprises there for what's happening in the near future and the short-term future with our plant. Again, reliability is priority number one at Cherryland, and that causes us to do a lot of overhead to underground conversions when we're rebuilding old sections of power line. We can do it when we can do it cost effectively. We can generally get better reliability with it underground, and we head in that direction when it's possible. So that does have some impact on their project. You know, we've talked with them over time about that. We're upfront and clear with them. We don't want them to build overhead plant in an area where we're going to underground it in the near future, or at least we don't want them to do it without knowing that's going to happen. And, you know, they've made the choice to go underground in those areas where we're going to go underground. And, you know, that's obviously an intelligent decision for everybody, but it's not always inexpensive. So I think that's certainly a component of all of this, but eyes wide open, that's the reality we will live with today.
Yes, Mr. Kramer.
Because I'm just trying to get on at the root of where the oversight was. Was it the underground, overground thing that wasn't necessarily talked about up front in the beginning?
I think it was talked about. I just don't think there was really estimated, right? We didn't give them an estimate for how much would happen, and they didn't probably, I'm not trying to speak for you, but I'm guessing they probably didn't estimate a volume for that either. We talked about the reality that would occur, but that's probably as far as that conversation went on either side is my guess. And again, I don't want to make stuff up for you guys, but I think that's probably
That's
yeah.
fair. That's fair.
So that has impact. I mean, there's no doubt. There's 20 to 25 miles when we look at the time frame between 2022 and 2028, the end of our next 5-year work plan. There's 20 to 25 miles of our line that we'll rebuild, and most likely that will be going underground and will impact Point in some way, shape, or form. So that's not an inexpensive undergoing for them either, for us or for Point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
I'm not sure this is for Frank, but wasn't there a renewed dialogue with the Grand Traverse Band in the pause?
Yeah, I'll handle that. This is David at Point Broadband. They have offered for us to take a second look at some of their conduit and their fiber that runs north through the peninsula. We're at a very, very early stage in that process. We got to sign some non-disclosure documents, and then they've sent over what that route looks like. Our guys are looking at how we could potentially use that and defray some costs. So we're very early in that process, but there is some dialogue occurring, and we'll certainly take advantage of that wherever we can for your interest and your investment and ours as well.
Dan or David, the road commission permitting, is that on schedule and going well, or that was a problem I think that you referenced a while ago?
Yeah, we're doing good with the permitting. The only road commission, they've been very flexible with us thus far, and we're just going to continue to ask when we hit some difficult spots that they maintain the level of flexibility that they have. But right now, we're working well with the road commission. It was an early project delays that got us off to a little later start, but we've worked through all those issues.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Alder.
I would just like to thank you for not coming back and asking for more money. We don't have it. So thank you very much.
Well, I'd like to
honoring your contract.
And I'd like to thank the commission too for offering this opportunity, or at least allowing this opportunity to talk about the schedule, because I think the accelerated schedule they were on was a significant challenge for Cherryland, right? And I think it was probably a significant challenge for Point too. And I think, trying to do it extremely fast and under budget is always a challenge. So I think that this is this extension of the plan is really a necessity for getting it done.
Thank you, Dan, David, Todd, Chris, Frank, and thanks for the good news.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks.
Thank y'all for the opportunity to meet with you. Y'all have a blessed rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we are now at that part of the agenda that we have a public comment opportunity. For our executive board meetings, our executive committee meetings, we allow public comment for only those items on the agenda during the first public comment session. If you have other things that you think that we need to know, please hold those until at the end of the meeting. We also know there are several people here that are making public comment on their grant applications through the Grand Traverse Band 2% allocation. Those we would like to take when we get to that item on the agenda. So if you have public comment that you would like to make specific to any of our agenda items, please raise your hand and we will welcome you. Yes, David.
Good morning, all. I'm Dave Behrens, Elmwood Township. I am the vice chair of your Parks and Rec Commission and chair of the subcommittee for Veronica Valley Park. It's come to my attention that several weeks ago, words were spoken as part of public comment or public record rather, indicating that those comments indicating that the work of Laurel Evans, our Parks and Rec administrative assistant, wasn't really all that substantial, wasn't really a major contribution to the work and the accomplishment of Parks and Rec. And I'm here to say I think that's a wrong-headed assessment. I think the work of Laurel Evans as our administrative assistant has been exceptional and very, very valuable. When I first started on the commission, whatever it is now, 7 or 8 years, in my very first session, one of my colleagues who is no longer on the Parks and Rec Commission, but a colleague at that moment, at the commissioner comment period at the end of our first meeting, my very first meeting, this gentleman said, you know, we all sit around here and talk about all the things that we ought to do at the park and the good ideas that should be implemented at the park, and we really don't get very much done. Well, that's changed. In my tenure on the Parks and Rec Commission, we now act much more professionally in a much more accomplished fashion than we did when I first started. There are several reasons for that, but one of them certainly is the work, the support, the effort of Laurel Evans as our administrative assistant. Laurel has very patiently educated each of us, whether we're new members or experienced members of the Park Commission, on the process of government. So you've got good ideas. How do you get them done? How do you affect those and move through the very proper process of government? She's done that patiently. That word I keep hitting because certainly for me personally, she's been very helpful, very instructive, but very patient with my inexperience. Laurel, of course, has handled all of our typical administrative work, all of the communications with outside contractors, county's legal counsel, all of the communications that need to go back and forth between such groups and the county. And she's the one who's handled all of that. My position as a volunteer on the Parks and Rec Commission is such that I can't speak for the county. I can get things moving. I can make phone calls initially, find out information that's needed, but I can't speak for the county. I can't do some of those final steps. That takes an administrative assistant, somebody legally representing the county. Laurel has provided all of that kind of administrative communications that are so vital to accomplishing anything on the part of the Parks and Rec Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Behrens.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
My last comment is I simply support the idea that Laurel Evans is very valuable.
Thank you. And thanks for your service on the Parks Commission. Any other public comment? Yes.
Scott Richards, Green Lake Township. I want to talk to you about your finance committee. I have some information for you here. This is from Cherryland Electric. I got it from Cherryland directly. It's on the solar panels they have out front. And before you go about making solar panels for this place, I would like to check out this information before you make any decisions costing taxpayer money. Yeah, and you'll see how much, remember I told you that Michigan was the third cloudiest state in the union? Well, there's evidence of it. So, thank you very much. Here, you can have it.
Thank you.
And that's straight from Cherryland. I won't tell you who sent it to me because I know. Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Thank you for coming. We'll have a second public comment opportunity at the end of this meeting, and also allow those that have submitted 2% allocation grants to comment at that time in our agenda. We now have commissioner comments, and I usually wait till the end, but I want to start today. And I reached out to Gene Kelly. Gene Kelly is a gentleman that many of us have heard of, and some of you know. But he was a master of ceremonies at Saturday's Veterans ceremony. And after the ceremony, I said to Mr. Kelly, will you come and speak to us? And he said, well, I really don't want to do that, but I'm going to send you what I said at the Veterans program and ask you to share it. So please allow me to be, in the words of Mr. Kelly, what he said on Saturday. I thought it was powerful. He said, Thomas Tip O'Neill filled JFK's vacated seat in Congress and later became the Speaker of the House from 1977 to 1987 during the Ronald Reagan years. A famous quote from Tip O'Neill is, all politics are local. There he was, a liberal Democrat with a very conservative Republican president. He was successful. How was he so successful? Because he was a gentleman, and when he explained why all politics are local, this is what he said. If you quarrel so much with the other side, then finally and always this behavior will corrode and ultimately destroy whatever our great country once had. Quarreling kills relationships. So how did Tip keep his politics local as well as successful? One thing he did was once every 2 weeks, he went and played golf with the Republican minority leader. And when these two gentlemen played golf, they got a lot of business and compromises and forward-moving agreements done. They talked things over as gentlemen without quarreling or name-calling or any wisecracker remarks. They gave each other homework assignments and always agreed to do what's best for the country, not their own selfish or party line agenda. They did this and they were successful. Today's politicians would do well to stop quarreling. We must force ourselves to move on and do what's best for America. You cannot be stagnant and hold on too tight to what's behind us. We all have common sense. We all know right from wrong. We all know that America is the best country in the world. Let's not give it away by quarreling. Congress must stop this, so must the Senate, as well as the states and the cities, and most certainly at a local county level. Tip O'Neill was absolutely right. All politics are local. Stop quarreling and start solving. We all know this to be true. Quarreling corrodes relationships, and therefore the movement or progress stops. Lucky for us, our county has level-headed politicians that understand this. Thank you, Gene. That understand this and can solve and do solve problems. As Leelanau County citizens, we can continue to live in hope of solutions by locally focused politicians. We need to somehow get this mindset for all politicians throughout our great nation. Thank you, Mr. Thomas Tip O'Neill. Thank you, Gene Kelly. And I made copies of this for each of you in the clerk and ask that these might be attached to the minutes. Any other commissioner comments?
I don't play golf.
I want to echo that Administrator Ellen, you were wonderful. Wonderful. Do I call that a speech? I guess so. You did a very good job. It was a heartfelt story. Thank you for your service. And thank you,
Yes, ma'am.
Maureen.
Any other commissioner comments? No. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. You did a great job. He does a great job emceeing anyway.
Yes, he did. We are now down to our action items, and we'll start with the first one, which is the Appropriations Act resolution.
So these two items were brought before the board in regards to the budget, required budget documents. So the first one is the Appropriations Act resolution and budget rules. And we, like I said, have reviewed what needed to be updated on those. And then the second item that you'll be asked to approve is the public hearing on the budget, which is set for November 21st at 7:15. So the first one is to approve the Appropriations Act and the budget rules.
We have a motion.
We don't have one. Michelle, did you?
You're just making, oh. You're gonna do it?
Yeah, I would recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve the 2024 General Appropriations Act resolution.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? We will do a roll call on this next week, but for now, we can just vote. Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you.
I would recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve the Leelanau County 2024 budget rules.
Support.
Discussion? All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same? Motion approved.
And do we have to move to have the public hearing for Tuesday evening? Or will it just be?
You can, it won't hurt anything, it's already said and published.
Or been moved and seconded. Did somebody move?
That will be, well, it sounded like a motion, that's fine. Move to have the public hearing Tuesday evening, November 21st. And 7:15?
7:15.
Okay, thank you.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0. Thank you. We are now, while Deb's still here and Laurel's here, we have to set a date for the committee, the whole session, to make their recommendations on boards and commissions.
I'm gonna hand this over to Laurel in my stead since I have to go catch a plane. So I will see you all on the other side and when I get back next week.
Thank you. Safe travel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, for being here. Want to just introduce this for us, please?
So a lot of you are new. And what has been customarily done the last few years is setting a committee of the whole meeting rather than a committee meeting of a few commissioners to review all the applicants for the various boards and commissions vacancies for the coming year. So with that being said, the way the policy is structured, we had a deadline date of last Friday in October for any submissions. And since then I have called them and forwarded them out to some of the outside agencies for review and potential recommendation. And then some of the other agencies have forwarded, they would like to retain the people that are currently in the seat because they're doing such a great job. So with that being said, we need to look for a date. I'm hoping it will be after Thanksgiving to allow any of those suggested recommendations to come back. The last week of November, the 30th is off because we have employee meetings on the 30th and the 1st. So either the Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, 27th, 28th, and 29th are free, or maybe the afternoon of the 4th.
We have a health board meeting on Wednesday. Is that in Leelanau or Benzie this year?
It's busy.
So that afternoon.
Tuesday, the 28th?
Tuesday, the 28th works for everybody? What time do you suggest?
Well, the planning commission meets at 5:30, so it looks like that day is pretty much wide open depending on your commitments.
Afternoon,
9:30.
9:30.
I can't make that, but that's okay.
When can you make that day? Into afternoon?
Can't make that day at all.
That day at all?
How about Monday?
We have a very heavy meeting Monday, the 4th, you're talking.
Yeah.
27th.
27% out.
The
What
27th. How
No,
about the
that's
27th?
that doesn't work for me.
No.
What about the 29th? If you have an afternoon meeting, the 29th, can you do morning? Yeah, it's in the afternoon though, right? Could you
I'm
do morning?
thinking you could do it in under 2 hours. Easily.
9:30 on the 29th?
It
I'm
doesn't-
going from the 24th until Saturday.
If we miss you, would you get your suggestions in writing to us?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, is everybody comfortable with that?
Everyone else can make it work, that's.
We can assign him to whatever people don't want.
Oh, this-
This is not for commissioner assignment.
Yeah,
It's
this is
for,
it's on the outside, yeah, so, but thank you for the commissioner work, I appreciate that.
We're looking at
Yeah.
the 28th then at 9:30. Does that work for everybody but Commissioner Rushbrook? Do we need a motion for that?
Why don't you, it's just a committee of the whole, but then we'll have it on the record.
I would move that we have a committee of the whole meeting for November 28th at 9:30.
Support.
For the purpose.
For the purpose of making committee assignments.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have a meeting date. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. We now have a copier service agreement.
Oh, is there something else?
It's an update.
Okay.
And Deb asked me to handle it because I typically handle that. I thought in light of the fact that you're all quite committed to going out for bids on things, we need a little direction on this because we handle all of our copy maintenance agreements through a local firm. So for several years, the county has engaged the services of NetLink Business Solutions for maintenance of all copiers located within the government center complex. The equipment was purchased directly from them on an as-needed basis. Administration has in the past gone out for bids to replace equipment when necessary. However, they have been very competitive with their pricing, and we have not found it fiscally advantageous to go with another firm. The annual maintenance agreements brought before the board annually in December include a per copy fee and all toner related to the various departments' respective equipment. NetLink only bills for actual costs, and the agreements signed prior to the start of the year include an estimated based on the previous year's usage. Because of the board's desire to go out for bids and in the spirit of transparency, we are asking the board to consider waiving its policy and letting administration negotiate directly with them for this coming service year. And I figured I would ask you for permission to do this, since in the past, Chet has come before you and done the very same thing. So if you're comfortable with that, I can work with them, or we can put it out for bids.
I frankly think it's useful to have people who know these machines, probably by name at this point.
I can give a personal analogy that while I was in the middle of streaming your 3 meetings on the 9th, my copier had issues. I called them while you were on break. They came out within an hour and a half and had it fixed. It is a nice service, easy to take for granted.
Do we know the value of this contract that we're waiving bids on? What is?
Well, there is a way of kind of avoiding the whole bid policy on this, because if it's paid per department, it doesn't cross that $4,500 threshold. However, I wanted to bring this to you, and it's usually collectively anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 for the entire year for every piece of equipment.
So the total value across all departments.
Yeah.
This contract is 68,000.
Yes.
Commissioner Russ and Commissioner Love.
I'm just remembering our conversation that maybe every so often we need to look at competitive bids.
Mhm.
So when did we start working with this company? Do you know?
We've done business with them for multiple years. I started in 2003, and at that time, it may not have been called NetLink Business Solutions, but we were working with them at that time.
I just wonder if we wanted to think about that idea that every so many years, even though we're happy with the service, we shouldn't probably send it out just to make sure we're on the right track.
Well, whenever there is equipment that comes up for replacement, we have historically gone out just to see what we can get for quotes, and they have been low.
Commissioner Love.
Thank you for that, because that was my question, is when was the last time we did put this contract out for bids?
For the master agreements, I don't know. It had to have happened at least over 10 years ago.
So I think there is also, I don't disagree with Commissioner Allgaier that it is useful to have somebody who really does know the system inside and out. We have done that in the past. It's also useful sometimes to put it out for bid to make sure that we are getting, the very best value available for this service. So it reminds me of a few years ago, Commissioner Bunnick kind of forced the issue on us going out for, I believe it was
Workers' comp.
Yes, and we actually ended up saving thousands of dollars because we ended up getting a much better bid. We went with the same vendor, but we ended up saving a lot of money because sometimes they just kind of relook at what they're doing for us as well. So I think I think there's some value to it. I think that we could move this forward maybe for Tuesday and think about it even for a week. But I'd like to see those numbers, in print as well.
I can send you the last 5 spreadsheets that we've worked with.
You sent them to us?
I said I can send you
Okay.
those.
Okay, I was gonna say I didn't see them. I just think that'd be useful.
Commissioner Kramer.
I'm gonna echo the sentiments that seem to be across the board. Loyalty in a relationship building is great. Every once in a while, checking the numbers and going out for that bid is, I think, essential. One thing that I'm curious about, kind of as a side note, when we're going out for bids or RFPs, where are we posting these?
We have an online company that we do business with, bidnetdirect.com. And when we post those, we post them on our website. We usually run an ad for 1 week in the enterprise. And that site goes out throughout the US. It's not just Michigan based. For example, when we went out for bids on the update to the website, we got bids as far as away as Denver, Colorado. And we had almost 16 separate responses, which was really high.
I'm just thinking, because there are other opportunities that we posted and we're not getting any of it, like hardly any responses to.
Yeah.
So rethinking our strategy as far as like where we're posting these and who's being able to see them, I think is going to be really important. And I don't necessarily know if this is for you, but maybe for all of us moving forward.
I think there were a lot more issues if you're referring to the HVAC bidding process. I think that past history, when we went out for bids the first time for that, and then the board decided not to do that, I think it sends a pretty strong message to the overall community on whether the county is really serious. In fact, I won't say who it was, but I had a vendor call me days before the bids were due, and he said, is the county really serious about that? And I said, they wouldn't have put it out for bid if they weren't. And we still had no bids. It's not just where you're putting it out for bids.
No, but as someone who worked in marketing and communications, like sometimes when you think you're getting your message across, that's not necessarily the case, and you have to diversify those locations that you're putting it in.
I can give you a report, for example, on where those bids, because it's not like it just goes on the site. That company will in turn, if you have the correct NIGP code associated with it, forward it by email to those firms that are signed up for this service. Bidnetdirect.com.
Commissioner Retro.
So I'm just gonna echo and agree. I mean, I think it's a good practice to go out and get a bid occasionally. And obviously, when we receive those bids, we can, you know, as Commissioner Algar said, we can place a value on past service, quality, and the known things, but without the numbers, we don't have a chance to actually analyze that data. So I would support going out for bids, and then I also support taking a critical look at it. I mean, someone's $6 cheaper, somebody you don't roll for that, but at least then the county knows we're making informed decisions on our finances. So I would support going to bid. I hope this is like a new start for 2024, that this is the way we look at some of those things. So thank you.
Okay.
Do we need any action on this now, or
No.
you heard that we'd like to?
We typically don't require a motion for going out.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Laura. Next on the agenda, we have 7 or so, 8 different 2% allocation requests. We do have people in the audience that came to listen as we considered your application. And at this time, we would give you just a couple minutes, 2 minutes, to identify yourself and come up and speak to your grant application if you'd like to. So Larry, you want to start?
Thank you. My name is Larry Mobby. I'm a resident of the village of Suttons Bay and here representing Peninsula Housing, one of the 2% grant applicants. I think you'll see with regard to the range of 2% grant applications that are before you that with respect to the housing situation in Leelanau County, all 3 nonprofits that are actively working to address the affordable housing situation are among those applicants. And I would urge you to forward all 3 of those to the tribe for their action. And I think that as you consider other things that the county can do to address the housing crisis in the county, think about what other things you as a commission can do. And I appreciate what you've done in the past and what you will be doing in the future. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, John.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm John Stimson with Homestretch, one of the nonprofits Larry mentioned. Thank you, Larry. Thank you for giving me just a couple of minutes. And I have just a few things to say about the application, but more specifically about the development. It was a Leelanau County coordinated effort with Leelanau Reach to put this development together in 2005, 2007. So it's sort of close to home, if you will. We've had low turnover. It's been a very successful affordable housing development from its inception. It is restricted to 80% AMI income per family household size, and it is a 99-year deed restriction. So these units cannot be market rate for 99 years. And there is a small amount of shared appreciation. So it's not as though these homeowners are getting a windfall every time it turns over, if it does in fact. We've increased the HOA fees to try to offset some of the costs. We've maintained it. Homestretch has for the past 3 years. We've done the best we can. We take a minimal fee to do that management and admin. Nobody is really paying in excess. Everyone's trying to chip in and do some of the maintenance themselves. There is liability with regard to that though. So we kind of police what can and cannot be done. It is private sewer and water. There are costs for the sewer maintenance has been a little bit exorbitant because there's some pumps that we've had to replace. The homeowners have stepped up. We've used all of our revenue to pay for that and our reserve. There is a private road. It is maintained by the HOA. So it's not as though the county can come and repave, resurface, etc. It is quite damaged. It's been patched several times, so that's in the application. 100% of the residents work in Leelanau County, so there's only one retiree. They all work here within the county. And Homestretch is contributing about $10,000 to $15,000 in matched funds out of our own operations. And we're asking for your support and would recommend this application request.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question on it, John. Unlike the other housing request, this request is to be paid to current owners.
Well,
Correct.
it's not really to the homeowners, it's to the HOA, which they are owners of, but the homeowners association doesn't have the funds to do the exterior maintenance or deferred maintenance. And I'll give you an example. It's a walls out situation where the HOA is responsible for all of the exterior maintenance. The homeowners are walls in. So carpet, paint, anything of that nature inside the unit is their responsibility. The windows all fogged. The seals on the windows have failed. And we went back to Home Depot and the original builder, which is a nice guy, Wayne Teague. But because it was a commercial in nature, and I disputed that with Home Depot and the manufacturer of the windows, because it was commercial in nature, the 20-year glass warranty goes down to 10. So at like year 12, the windows failed, and we've been trying to get the seals replaced. I mean, these windows are fogged. You can't see through them. And it's kind of unsightly to see an affordable housing project in Leelanau County that has that circumstance, but it's about $5,000 to $6,000 per unit to replace all the glass. We're not talking about window replacement, just the glass. That's a big burden to put on them. And then the road maintenance, that's really for the HOA. It's not really the homeowners. It's for their use and enjoyment. So that's the way I would answer that question, Ty, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
What was the brand of windows?
It's a good question. They were gelled one. Mm-hmm.
For information.
Yeah, and some of them were oversized. They're big picture windows, and so they're more prone to seal failures. But still, by categorizing it as commercial, even though it's a residential setting, so it goes.
I would just like to thank both of you for what you do in our county.
Thank you.
Thank you for that work.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Carrie Maloney with Habitat for Humanity, and I want to thank Larry for his comments. I want to echo that as well. Funding all three of these projects would be incredible. Our grant request was for our New Waves Community Church development on the corner of M72 and Bugai Road. We've recently broken ground on this property, and walls are going up right now, so on 2 of the homes. So we're really excited about the progress. This has been 5 years in the making, so we're really excited about the progress. We have our first 2 homeowners selected for these homes, and hoping by the spring we'll have people moving into this development. And that's all I really wanted to say.
Here, everything going well in Maple City?
Everything's going really well in Maple City. We hope to have 2 new homeowners in by the end of the year.
Questions for Carrie?
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Yes, Judy. And Gail.
Morning.
Morning. I'm Gail Meyer. I'm a senior planner here. And what we have are a couple of requests, one for mattress recycling and the other for tire recycling. These are basically repeat requests. These are very popular collections. The tribe has always been very supportive of them, so we'd like to continue.
Speak a little louder, please. Mainly for that out there.
That was all I had to say.
Unless you have any questions for us on either one of these requests.
Mr. Lover?
No, I just, these I support these 2 programs 100%. That every single citizen in this county has the ability to benefit from this program, and Leelanau County is much better for it. And I just saw in the accounts the cost of the household hazardous waste collection up at Shabbytown, and it's wonderful. Cost was good because it was been at that. It is what it is, but it's wonderful that all those things are gone. They're gone from this county, and that's such a good thing. So thank you for all that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I see we have Family and Child Services here. Thank you, Gina, for being here.
Pleasure.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Thank you for having us today. I'm Gina Orenke. I'm the Executive Director of Child and Family Services of Northwestern Michigan. We've been a part of the fabric of the community for 85 years, just about, providing a host of human services to our residents. A number of years ago, the consent decree that created this 2% formula was updated to limit 2% applications to services that units of government would otherwise have to provide. And in our case, one of the two programs that fit that bill was our Safe Haven Supervised Visitation and Exchange Program, which is the one that's before you today. Safe Haven offers safe exchanges and visits between parents during parenting time. That's they're typically referred by the court, and the probate and family court here in Leelanau County is our partner in this program too. So during parenting time, between parents where there's domestic violence or high conflict, and typically when the exchanges happen elsewhere, or the visits happen under the auspices of family members or just out in the community, the possibility of a batterer renewing the level of conflict in the family, and then the children being subject to that is very high, and that is also a cost to law enforcement. So I remember being skeptical that we needed such a program in this community, but we became the only supervised visit and exchange program north of Grand Rapids, and hundreds of families and children are served by this program every year, with an average of 64 families and 81 children each month. In fiscal 23, we facilitated nearly 2,000 safe visits and exchanges, 12% of which were for the children and families of Leelanau County. And in comparison, our request for support from you today is about 2% of the program costs. If even a portion of those visits and exchanges turned ugly in the parking lot, as I mentioned, the cost of law enforcement we feel would be very high, and that this takes the burden off of the county to manage that aspect of family life. And there are clients who will tell you that Safe Haven has saved their life. So it's a good example of public-private partnership. We're grateful to the court and to you all for helping to facilitate these 2% grants over the years. Local support helps us provide match for state and federal funding, which is often a requirement. And in the case of Safe Haven, the 2% supplement a contract that's worth to our region about $280,000 a year. So I would just close with the words of a client who has said writing her thanks for the program, "My children and I have survived our own hardship, and Safe Haven has lent us shelter and strength. Without a doubt, it has minimized our stress and conflict. It's been a positive, consistent, and routine force in our weekly schedule. I have found a network of support that empowers me to keep the focus on my beautiful children, who are really just like your children and grandchildren and neighborhood children. Whose main focus should be growing their minds, bodies, and spirits. On behalf of my family, I thank each and every one of you. We are grateful for your support, and we have benefited from your unique contributions on many levels. We will always be touched by your efforts." So thank you for your consideration of our request.
Thank you, Gina. Questions for Gina before she sits?
I just have a comment. I'm a fangirl. No, I just, at one point we were going to be foster parents, didn't work out for us, they're not nice dog. But, and I've known Gina and Child and Family Services for so long, and it's just incredible what you guys do. And like our community thanks you. I mean, those are some hard work. And I just want everyone to know, like, it's amazing what they do, and thank you, Gina.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Gina. Yes. Now we're going to hear about the discovery.
Yep. Hello.
I'm Stephanie Rustum. I'm the Program and Fundraising Coordinator for Discovery Center in Pier. We're located in Elmwood Township. And our request is to help us continue our Discovery Pier project. So we're in the process of redeveloping Traverse City's old coal dock into a barrier-free park. And we broke ground last December on the first phase of our project. We've installed some new, it used to be a gravel parking lot, essentially. There's new pathways around the perimeter, new shade structures, new fishing railing. We're working on constructing a pavilion right now. And that was kind of the first phase of our project. Now we're transitioning to focusing on redeveloping a parking lot along the M22 corridor. That is unpaved. So we're hoping to pave that, install an adaptive kayak launch, which is what our request to the tribe would be. And then also constructing an ADA restroom facility. So really continuing this project and making sure that people of all ages, needs, and abilities have access to the Great Lakes and can recreate in them as we enjoy to do.
Yes.
When I was reading this, what is an adaptive kayak? What do you mean?
That's a great question. So kind of in the design of I'll give you a little background information. In the design of our project, we worked with Disability Network of Northern Michigan to inform all of our design pieces to make sure that everything is universally accessible, which means it goes beyond ADA requirements. An adaptive kayak launch, basically it has a chute, a ladder where you would put your kayak in so that if you use a wheelchair, you can actually kind of drag the kayak launch down to the water. And then there's kind of a step ladder system. I would be happy to kind of email you a schematic if that would be helpful for you guys to see. So that
basically, right?
It's the one that we have that we're planning to purchase. It looks like steps, but it's in line with if someone is seated in a wheelchair, they can actually slide themselves onto the steps and then kind of walk down with their hands. And then there is a board that pulls out so that they would slide onto the seat to go into the kayak. So it's usable by anybody. It's not just for people who use wheelchairs, but it's a way to make kayaking more accessible for people who use wheelchairs.
So maybe we don't have to like crawl into the water.
Exactly. Yep, precisely.
You well, like for instance, my sorry, I'm probably speaking out of turn. I have a family member who's recently quadriplegic, and she was a huge outdoors person. This gives her access to things that she used to be able to enjoy, and it's so important. I think often we think of these people as fringe. We don't really like. Sometimes I think we objectify them. They're not necessarily people. These are people who enjoy all sorts of things before this, horrendous thing happened. And just that one small thing can open an entire world for someone. So thank you for your work. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Obviously, Elmwood Township has looked at this, and the original plan, I like this. This is down next to the parking lot. The original plan was on the northeast corner, which all the waves come in and things, and it was quite a fight about it down here. But I believe Elmwood has been along with plans. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Anything else? Stephanie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we've heard from, yes. Thank you. I didn't mean to. I didn't see you there.
I wouldn't let you forget.
Senior services, my Christian neighbor.
They were hiding back there.
We were. This is Kathy Hackelman. She is a representative from Leelanau Christian Neighbors. Our request today is for continued partnership with LCN. On a weekly basis on Mondays, their food pantry is open from 2 to 6 p.m. Outlaid in your EDS, that's 32% of seniors utilize LCN food pantry on Mondays. The cost of food, as we all know, continues to increase. They have seen a 52% increase from previous year's budget. So this will help them to supplement and continue our partnership to serve our seniors with food insecurities, as well as our folks who are homebound. So today, Tuesdays, no, is today Tuesday? Yeah, today's Tuesday, sorry, losing track of days. I have a staff member out right now gathering the leftovers from the food pantry, and we distribute the leftover food to our homebound seniors. So I think there was 15 to 20 VI pre-made meals that will be going out today. A case of apples, breads and pastries from 9 Bean Rose. So it is quite the partnership we have with them. Do you have any input?
No, just that we continue to try and improve nutrition for the seniors by offering the fresh produce and frozen meats, and the pre-made meals have been a big hit for seniors.
My daughter goes to Leelanau Montessori, and every Monday, you guys are just packed as we go by, so thank you for the work that you do.
Yes, thank you for your.
Very much.
Thank you.
Before you leave there, do you want to make a personal invitation for the holiday dinner in Leland?
Absolutely. I know a few of you have purchased tickets already. December 14th is our Christmas party. It will be at the Leland Lodge doors open at 11:30. Food is served approximately at noon. There will be entertainment. And in the past, we've had about 100 seniors there. I anticipate those numbers to be even more this year as we're coming out of the pandemic.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Tickets are available in the senior services office.
At $12 a ticket. Thank you.
Well, I think we've heard from all of the people that have submitted applications to us, and I thank you for writing them. And now we'll talk about those applications, and we'll need a motion. When?
I would recommend to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to approve the following grants to be submitted to the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. These are 2% allocation requests. Children's Discovery Center for $25,000. Habitat for Humanity and WCC Development, $50,000. Homestretch Piedmont Pines, HOA, $30,000. Peninsula Housing, Housing Study, $12,900. Probate Court, Probate and Family Court, Child and Family Services Safe Haven, $5,000. Leelanau Christian Neighbors Food Pantry Assistant, $34,000. Solid Waste Council, Mattress Recycling, $5,000, and Tire Recycling, $10,000.
Sure.
I would give the opportunity to ask people to discuss any one of those or deal with any one separately if you'd like to.
Division of the question, please.
Division of the question, yes. So Commissioner Lauder has asked that they be handled one at a time. So we still have the motion, but we'll take one each. Okay, any discussion on the first one, the Discovery Center? All those in support of the motion to approve that application, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Habitat for Humanity, $50,000. All those in support of that, discussion. All those in support of that?
No, I have discussion. I just want to
Okay.
make sure that, so on these, I'm gonna actually speak to these next three. But when I looked at these in a whole, I looked at, and I thought that Gina said it very well, purpose of the 2% grant application. So what is the biggest thing, the best thing we can do for our citizens? How can we impact the most citizens possible, our residents in the county? And I sit on Housing Action, so I certainly appreciate Housing Action. And I appreciate the efforts of the affordable housing. I just feel like we haven't really gotten as far as we would like to, but I'm not sure that asking for the 2% grant allocations is the best next step. So the Habitat for Humanity is going towards housing. We actually put money towards that a year ago. We gave quite a bit of money, I believe, to Habitat for Humanity, 100 and some thousand. Is that right? That be right?
So we gave some to Homestretch.
We used
I'm not sure we did
ARPA dollars. to
ARPA
support
dollars.
housing.
That's what I thought, okay. That one set aside in the Peninsula Housing Study, I'm not sure about. But when I looked at the Pruvmont Ponds one, I really don't think we ought to be asking for 2% dollars to help with private homes. And that's what this is. So, you know, I look around this county, I have a friend who lives in Cleveland Township, and she needs probably $40,000 worth of work to her home, 2 children. And this isn't going to help her, and yet we will be helping helping private housing, privately owned housing in the county. When the county got into this housing project, I do believe the county lost nearly 100,000. That, not that much? Okay. Lost money building this project. We got out from underneath this project, and now it's unfortunate that it is where it is. But, you know, I looked at many of these homeowners listed in here, and some of these salaries they're more, I know they're more than the example I just gave of my friend living in Cleveland. So actually, I don't know if anyone else was disturbed by this. I thought maybe these people are okay with their names and their salaries being put into a public document. I was a little disturbed by that.
I believe though we're dealing with item D2, the habitat. So could we?
You want to take them? All
Could we-
right. I was speaking at them in general, so I can speak to that one next,
Yes.
but, okay.
So any questions or discussion on the application for the Habitat for Humanity? All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-1. Now we are down to the Pruvmont Pines.
Okay, so some of these salaries are not large, and I understand that, and we see that all over the county. We all know people who are living on very low means, but some of these also are right in line with what a lot of people are living on in our county. So I just see this is for private citizens, and I don't think we should be sending 2% dollars to private individuals in the county, and this will benefit private homes.
Mr. Rush?
I believe, Mr. Stimpson, this is your project, correct? And you did share that all but one is a workforce for our county, one retired person. Are they in the Alice classification? You know, I think we all agree that affordable housing for our workforce is one of our main challenges. So I think this ask of the tribe is in keeping with our priorities. So I'm gonna support this.
As far as I'm aware, which is, you know, it's a nonprofit, 501c3 status. I don't think it's really our job as commissioners to be judging or necessarily micromanaging how the organization runs. And at the end of the day, it is going to be the band's decision to either approve or deny your grant. So I'm going to support.
The reason I asked Mr. Stinson the question is I did think this was a little different than some of the other requests, and I wanted to talk to Trudy Gallo, who I know was responsible for this project when they first built those. I'm very supportive, but I'm going to ask questions between now and next.
I do have a question. Is there a certain time, I mean, will these units remain in the workforce housing category? Because I've heard that a number of other projects, usually after the first tenant comes in, then they switch it. Is there something in the documentation that keeps this rent or, you know, how does that function? Could you just enlighten us?
Sure. Yep, quickly. It's like I said, a 99-year deed restriction. And if the unit sells, it has to sell to somebody within 80% AMI. And that's per household size. So you might see a large household of 4 children, 3 children, 2 adults or 1 adult. They can have a pretty substantial income because they're paying for a higher percentage of their household members. A single person's income at 80% AMI is relatively low. And one interesting point is this development, unlike others, these days are from 80% to 120% AMI. This is back in the day when 80% was a big deal to go to that high of a level. Today, the housing shortage has become to the point where it's up to 120% now. We haven't changed that. We've kept it at 80% max AMI. So it does dip into the lower income. But you know, people are allowed to make income. Once you get qualified, you could make even more, but we're not going to kick you out or we're not going to disqualify you. You're just going to be restricted upon the resale of only getting 22% of the appreciated value. The other 78% stays with the unit for 99 years, or in this case, for another 80 years. And that to us seems like it's in perpetuity because we won't be around at the end of the term. But it's helping more than just the people that are there right now. It's contributing to an asset for the community. And so giving that, it's not just one individual household or 8 families, it's a multitude. If you think about the rest of the term. Does that explain it?
So home stretch, you own the homeowners association?
No.
You own the land under?
No.
What owners?
It was originally a land lease and we did away with that. That's why the 99-year term.
Private homeowners association.
Correct, with a nonprofit having 51% controlling interest.
You have 51% controlling interest
Of all the decisions for the HOA, for the.
They all own their units.
Yes. Yes, walls in and the HOA is walls out.
Out, yeah,
Right.
that's what I thought, okay.
Commissioner Rexroth?
I'm basically gonna echo Chairman Mussel's comments. This does feel paced just a little bit different than the rest of these requests. And I am not familiar enough with it to give this full support. I would support it to pass on till next week, but I have some other questions. And I just, you know, one of the things that we have to be cognizant of is the more things we send, the less likely they are that any one of these things gets funded because there's more options. So I would ask this board to now to consider that as well. That if you see something that is a higher priority to you, that you perhaps should limit this list a little bit just because, you know, granted that, you know, to your comment, it's not our money, but they won't fund everything. So
thank you. Are we ready to vote? Commissioner Ogden?
I will support this. I think it is up to the band to decide how they're going to allocate the funds. I think this is a worthy project. It is supporting our citizens being able to live in the county, which is an overarching goal and huge problem that we have yet to have effective solutions for.
just a quick comment, I assume that the next week's meeting we will still be able to individually.
Yes.
Stuff like that. Okay, all right.
Mr. Kramer?
I have one more question, just because of my own curiosity. Are you then a hybrid? Like as a business, are you a hybrid business? Are you said 51% you have controlling nonprofit, it's the other for-profit, correct? I think That's
Well-
fabulous, because then you're self-sustaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no profit. In fact, if this went out to a management company, they would ask for 5 to 6, 10%. We get 1% of the revenue for managing it. It's $1,000 a year just to pay the bills and run the meetings. We're covering our costs, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think we're great.
And looking at the wages, I don't know how people can even start to get by with the wages listed. I will support.
Let's vote then. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-1. And feel free to reach out to Trudy between now and next week for some background information if you desire it. We now have the one for Peninsula Housing. Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-1.
And I have a comment. I agree 100% with what was just said about the band is going to decide. So I looked at these and I prioritized what's going to, what I'm hoping the band will support for our county to help as many residents as absolutely possible with the funds we may or may not receive from the tribe.
We now are down to Safe Haven. Any discussion? All those in support,
It's amazing.
all those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you. And Senior Services Food Pantry Assistance. Discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you. We're now down to Solid Waste Council. We can take those together, I think. Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. We thank you all for submitting those. At this time, let's take a 8-minute break and we will.
Whoa. Got one or two. Good. That's always.
Last night.
Hi, I'm Eric.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're, once we install the adaptive kayak itself, I've been working with, some rehab facilities in there in, you know, in Grand Traverse County. That have done some adaptive kayaking in the past. And see, so what we did develop a program specifically for our subdivision here, because water, there's some different factors that come into play.
Well, we're required.
Right. Yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah. No, so I'm not sure why that, it's just Discovery Center. So we have, you know, more cats. That's all. Thank you.
Excuse me.
They're actually in my office building. So we have, yeah, so that's where our office is. So they have offices in there too. Yeah.
Talking about redoing the whole campus. Watershed used to be the base. We can't be out of business for a year.
Right, yeah, no, yeah, watershed centers have, and then the children's museum actually has, they want to significantly expand. They want, you know, the space that they're in now is about 4,000. Super fun facility. So, yeah, so trying to figure out, they're trying to. I know. Right, right. Yeah. Let's turn the, you know, the camera, the shop is at city. Yeah.
Andrew continues to
Don't necessarily.
In order to like become
How are you?
Great, great.
Okay, all right. All good. Good job, sir.
How are you?
Just an update, on November 9th, we had a meeting and I think we made some good progress. Thank you to my fellow committee members for their help and also for the in advance for the hard work that's yet to come. So we had a intermediate plan set out as part of that meeting. Last night I was preparing for this. I made a few small, very minor changes to that plan there on red. And as we look at this, I got to start out with a couple of quotes that come to mind. H.L. Mencken, he was a journalist and a satirist, and he said, and I forgive me because I'm quoting from memory, for every complex issue, there is a easy, simple, and wrong solution. So looking at our past situations, that applies. And also Albert Einstein, who said, if I had an hour to solve an issue, I would spend 55 minutes thinking about the issue and 5 minutes thinking about the solutions. So as we move forward, I think we want to keep those in mind. We have to do this slowly, deliberately. We have to get it right this time. Both of those quotes work together on a kind of a attitude towards getting this done. So I don't know that who all have seen minutes before. If you've seen what was I just gave you, if you weren't on the finance committee, I think it was in the minutes. If not, I can run through it briefly.
Why don't you run through it for the audience as well?
Okay, this includes the minor edits from the other day. So we divided the action into two paths: an intermediate plan and a long-term plan. And so starting with the intermediate plan, number one would be to name Catherine Huddersfield as interim finance director, reporting directly to the Board of Commissioners. The intent is not to create a CFO position. This is a short-term arrangement until the long-term plan is implemented. Number two, advertise position of account clerk. That would be to replace, some extra help as needed for that. Number three is where there's a slight change, advertise a position of an additional account clerk. This position to be temporary, full-time, or we can work with existing staff to see if assistances can be given to Kathy. This position was anticipated when we added to our contingency in our budgeting workshop. The changes in 2 and 3 are to leave a path open for Kathy if she wanted to return to the deputy finance director position after it shook out. We don't know what will happen there, but this makes it a little clear that we're not replacing her position. Number 4, clarify that the administrator does not have direct supervisory or reporting responsibility for finances during this interim plan. As stated in number 1, the interim finance director will report directly to the Board of Commissioners. Future responsibility for the administrator will be determined as a part of our long-term plan. Timeline to implement would be as soon as possible, and the duration would be until the long-term plan is implemented with a goal of no later than June 30th, 2024. Sure.
So, how about the stipend that's currently being offered to the clerk and deputy clerk? That's stops on December.
As of right now, and that's a next question that until we actually have a way to move ahead with a plan, what we're hoping for that Tuesday is to get approval to move forward this plan. Then I assume the finance committee will reconvene as soon as possible after that. Start working out, we haven't actually offered this position to Kathy Huddersfield because we don't have the authority to do so. All those things will be part of ongoing. This is not meant to address every single, it's more of a roadmap than a whole plan.
But under item 3, gonna either post a full-time temporary position or work with existing staff, which could include the clerk and the deputy clerk, or
Nobody has had a chance to move forward those discussions to see what the best option is. So
It was our intent to get approval for the short term and the long term issue, basically, and then we are going to meet next week with Liam.
So it's not attached to any name or any position.
No, these are specifically, and that's even kind of the changes of 2 to 3 to take it out of a personal thing and keep it just position dependent. And so we don't know what the best options for those are yet.
Other questions on the intermediate plan for Doug?
Go ahead.
Commissioner Alger?
So, are you looking for a motion to approve this intermediate plan, or are you just advising us?
I think you would recommend to move forward with the plan and a motion to approve the plan at the regular meeting, I think.
And it seems like we need, in the meantime, to be recommending that Catherine Hardisfeld would be appointed as the interim finance director, so she knows where she's going, who she's, so we have some structure in the meantime.
That is the first point.
That's the first point on the plan.
Okay.
That's what it says.
So I would make that motion if,
Can we continue with discussion before we go ahead with the motion? Or discussion after, because I'd like to say it.
I would move to recommend that Catherine Hardisfeld be appointed as interim finance director, reporting to the Board of Commissioners, and to be compensated at a salary level for finance director in the amount of $79,570.45 found on the 2023 non-union wage schedule, retroactive to October 23, 2023, which is when she started this position.
I raise a question because I think without approval of the plan proposed, we can't take isolated pieces and propose it, because unless we propose the rest of that, I don't know what. I think the intent of the finance committee was to try to get, and I can't tell you, you can't make that motion, but I think the intent of the finance committee was to have you review the intermediate plan and the long-term plan, and then see if there was board support for that. And then if there's board support for that, we'll move it to next Tuesday and approve that, at which time we can approve all the details of that implementation.
That's my understanding of what our intent was, yes.
So then next week, we would be including this motion, because I think she's been doing this job. I think we need to give her the title, the salary, and the authority. I mean, I get what you're saying, and I'm wondering why we can't do both.
I supported it. I didn't hear that, sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
She wanted to know if she had support, but she didn't hear my support for your motion.
Well, it's been moved and seconded, so we have a motion on the floor, but now let's
I'm not sure why we can't do both. Because meanwhile, we need somebody leading our finance.
I would just tell you that I would not support your motion unless there was support for much of the
Immediate plan.
Yes. So can I add to this, including support?
We have a motion and support on the floor. Now let's talk about that. And if we think it works better to change that motion, amend that motion, or withdraw that motion, then we could do that at that time. But let's have discussion. Commissioner
All
Grady.
right, cool. So my point of discussion was just that, and I agree with, and thank you for taking the lead on this. I really appreciate it, to all of you who are doing the finance team. I think we are going to need some arch between the administration and the finance director, and I'm wondering if the finance committee can be that bridge, because I think we're going to at some point need a bridge between those two worlds. And so how we move forward with that, I think that given the circumstances that we've dealt with, I think this is definitely the separation is needed, but we do need a bridge. So however we get there, we would have something. I just like, you really got something in mind already.
Well, I mean, I think that the intermittent plan kind of encompasses that. I mean, in as much as the administrator is a direct report to the board of commissioners. And in the interim, the finance director would be a direct report to the board of commissioners. That de facto makes the board of commissioners that bridge. That would be our job. It's you know, it may or may not be what this board chooses to do long term. We had looked at that under the CFO position, but there are a multitude of options there that we haven't yet examined under the long-term plan as to what that structure looks like. But during the interim, that's exactly what we will be doing, because we'll have 2 direct reports. You know, and that's why the item number 4, the added clarification is to make sure that the administrator during this period does not have supervisory or reporting authority or the finance director during that period. In other words, that makes it clear who's boss would be. And we already know that we are, the administrator works at our pleasure to begin with. So I think that makes us that bridge.
Commissioner Lautner.
Yes, I think I understand where everyone is coming from. I certainly see this as, these 2 things as working hand in hand. And I really think that we need to solidify what we are doing here and recognize the work being done. So if it's the comfort of this board, I would offer an amendment to the motion to say, and to accept the intermediate plan as presented.
I would support that amendment because I was gonna make it myself.
Okay. I do have one question whether the board would be, Mr. Peacock made it clear that we're not going to be able to do the long-term plan by June. So I really think that ought to be a goal of no later than like a year or 18 months.
He didn't say it was impossible. He said you'll have a difficult task. So I would love to hold on to the goal and try for the goal. He didn't say
Okay,
it couldn't
you
be.
can have it with a goal of.
He didn't say it couldn't be done. He just
Okay,
said,
but let's say-
it's gonna be hard.
So
So
in
in
my
my think we know
amendment,
that, so.
it would be the goal of, with a goal of 6/30/24. I'm okay with that. I need to
And just to follow up, I guess, and sorry to interrupt, but the overall intent of all of this is to take the time to get it right. Now, if we don't have a goal that's of some urgency, we'll take way too much time. But if we get, I think, we have to all agree that if we get to this point and no one's satisfied or whether we made it, then we gotta extend the goal a little bit. But I'd like to start with a more aggressive goal and hope that it works.
Okay.
I'd like to thank you for coming up with this plan.
Yeah, thank you.
So would you restate your amendment and then?
Well, that's what I just want to ask the question. I understand what the amendment is. The amendment is to accept the intermediate plan.
First.
And that will be voted on first, and then if that passes, it will be combined with the original motion on the floor. But the date that you said, with a goal no later than 6/30/24, it does say that on the intermediate. So where was that portion? I lost.
But he has under duration, he has until the long-term plan is implemented, just Commissioner Rexler has with a goal of no later than, I took off the no later than.
Oh, okay, thank you. With a goal of 6/30/24.
Makes an aggressive goal, but I'm all in favor.
And that's just on the intermediate plan. That's all we're discussing right now.
I thought we were combining the 2.
We are.
We're doing a combination.
The amendment, and Chairman Weston was gonna have her restate it. I thought when she did it, she said to just include the intermediate, but if I misheard, and it was the long term also, I can include that.
You restate your amendment, please.
Oh, we hadn't discussed the long-term yet. I thought it'd be a separate motion, but
I agree.
you want a separate motion? Okay.
I think so.
Yes. Oh, I was combining.
So we have an amendment on the floor. Are we ready to vote on that amendment?
So wait a minute, if
The amendment is approving the entire plan.
No, the amendment
Or
is
the
just
intermediate plan.
approving the
Excuse
intermediate
me.
plan, and then if that passes, it will be combined with the original motion, and that vote will be on that. And then you'll move to the long-term plan.
Okay.
So
So we
are we
can-
ready to vote on the amendment right now?
Yes.
All those in support of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion amendment approved 7-0. And now let's vote on the original motion. All those in support of the original motion amended as read, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now, Mr. Rexbro, Commissioner Rexbro, would you address the long-term plan?
Okay, again, keeping those two quotes in mind as we look at the long-term plan. Number one, again, a collaborative effort to move forward with the finance department, and independent finance department as structure of this county. The expert advice, we've already heard some from Mr. Peacock, but there are other people we wish to hear from. I think Administrator Allen had reached out to MSU, the MAC, and see what resources they have for us to hear from as well. So seek expert advice from inside our organization and from outside experts as to best practices and organizational structures. Number three, take the time to listen and learn. Form a plan that can succeed and can be implemented in a measured, thoughtful, and cooperative manner. Getting it right is more important than getting it quick. The plan must be clear and concise and include buy-in from all board members and stakeholders. This next part is important. It must have identifiable goals and timelines. No plan will completely satisfy everyone. Compromise and commitment to the bigger picture will be essential. Once the plan is adopted, all parties must work together to ensure success. The board must pass required resolutions so as to remove all confusion about roles and responsibilities. Timeline: immediate start of plan formation with a goal of adopting a plan within 30 to 60 days. Full implementation would start immediately after adoption with a goal of 6/30/24 again.
I would recommend that the board approve the long-term plan, and I think it shows a lot of good effort.
Support.
Been moved and seconded. Do you want to speak to that, Jim? Jamie?
I think this is excellent, and I think as we move forward, we'll get more granular with it, obviously. But I think, talking about the potentiality of allocating resources to the position beyond just the position, because we heard from Sean earlier that he felt like he lacked a lot of infrastructure that he needed. And I think, just as a board, recognizing that might be something we have to invest in long term. But I think this is excellent. And I will.
I just have two clarifications, and number one, begin collaborative effort. So I guess I believe you're spelling out what collaborative means below. And then my second is on number 4. We haven't used the word stakeholders very much in this board. Does that include employees, all employees?
I think we would seek input from everyone who has input. That the board would have to weigh all that input and make the best decisions for the entire organization. But it goes right up to listen. I think, and it goes back to my quote from Einstein. You spend a lot more time thinking and listening than you do doing. And then when your doing gets done, hopefully your doing gets done well.
Yes. I just like to just put on the record that we need to listen to the employees across the board. So
maybe
Mr. Kramer?
Maybe we could glean some data from the new employee survey that could help dictate this moving forward. So anyone, you're Kama on that committee, maybe having a conversation where one of the questions or something is directly related to what employees may think or believe or understand that is needed for the finance.
I'm pretty sure that is going to be coming up.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm just saying that
as
can
long as
help
the voices are heard.
Yeah.
I would hope that those questions are leading. That information should just be from an open debt of what we said before. I don't want it to be, in my opinion. And the other question I have as we look at this is what I guess, I think the finance committee probably takes a pretty strong role in moving forward with this, always reporting to the, and I like this format, we're following it, we come up with something, it goes to the executive, then it goes, if something became emergency, we could call a special meeting, I guess, but I see a lot of work.
Good job, Doug.
I want, as a member.
Look what you signed up for.
Yeah. As a member of the finance committee and as one commissioner, I would like to state that I believe that we ought to put 6/30/24 in bold and really make that a goal. And I think we ought to work as hard as it takes to do this. Our staff, our county has spent a couple of years in bifurcated activity, not sure where everybody was going. So we need to move forward, and I think we need to send a strong message that we've got a short-term plan and we've got a long-term plan. And I think we support both of those unanimously. So that's a good news, I think. Commissioner Utter and then Commissioner Richard.
I just was looking for a little clarification. So these plans and as we move forward, these are going to be obviously decisions of the Board of Commissioners.
Correct.
Run through finance, brought to executive, brought to full board. We'll take input from who we feel we need to receive input from. You know, I think we've got our auditor. We've got some big stakeholders in this. I'm all for that. I'm also hearing that we want to take employee input on this. Okay, I just want to clarify.
I don't know.
I'm hearing it's not a bad idea.
That's more on Doug right now. I'm not in
So we now also are looking at hiring a new planning director. We're going to be doing interviews. So I take it we'll use this very same model. So we would take input from all our employees on that decision and how we move forward in that plan. And then we're also looking at replacement of an executive assistant. So will our employees also weigh in on that decision and plan and input? We also have a retiree over at the Sheriff's Department. So will our employees also be weighing in on who the sheriff, how he, you're saying no, okay. So no, you as an elected official, you will make those decisions for how you hire, who you hire, and how you implement that plan. But that might go against what we're saying because we're looking for all kinds of input from our employees. So I just want to make it clear how we're going to proceed as a Board of Commissioners.
Commissioner Richard.
If I could clarify, the idea of taking input is not to specific staff recommendations that you just stated. I would not be asking for an entire community to make hiring decisions. I should hear from them, but people would be heard. But there's a distinction between the 3 or 4 positions you just mentioned as actually hiring personnel decisions and having input on a plan that we can move forward with. So I just want to make sure that we have that distinction clear. Hearing from, having all the voices heard can only make a better plan. Again, it would be the finance committee and the entire board's position to decide how much weight to put on any of those individual situations, and you'll have a lot of competing and complex things to figure out on that thing. But I want to make it 100% clear. I did not endorse in this plan that we would have a 200-member committee on the hiring position for the people. That's just to help get buy-in and support for a plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Kramer, and then Commissioner O'Hare, and then Commissioner
I just
Rock.
want to differentiate between data and, 200 different voices involved. Data, leaning data and ignoring data is, not a wise thing to do. If you have data that can help you direct your decision. That's what we're talking about, not specifically like one employee or one squeaky wheel or anything like that, just data.
Thank you. Commissioner Andres.
My sense of what employee input is important is when we're looking at the structure of a department and workflow. What works for them, what kind of finance department will serve their needs, but yes, no, nothing on, okay, we're maybe hiring this person who votes for them. That's not.
Commissioner Rushing.
Yes, I just want to reiterate that when we were talking about personnel committee issues last week, you know, we were asked to get input from taxpayers again. Some of our employees are taxpayers in Leelanau County, so I'm just saying, you know, we're clearly listening to our employees, our taxpayers. That's all the comment was.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward.
I believe I have a motion on the floor to go ahead with a long-term plan. There's a lot of good work in it, and we are talking about finance right now. I just can't wait to appoint the sheriff's new officer. No, we're not gonna do that. This is finance.
Were you
and
suggesting
I'm
it's time to
calling-
vote?
I'm calling the vote, yes, sir.
We ready to vote?
Yes.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we have.
You call the vote, not the question.
I
Just making it clear.
I know, because I think I said, are we ready for vote? And everybody said yes.
Yeah, but it was good, but you did call the question, so.
My sergeant at arms said I did that wrong. Are you comfortable with it, Mr. Wright?
Yes,
we're all
sir.
comfortable with it, so.
But don't beat it to death, okay? What's that word you use? Granular?
Granular. Oh, you learned
Yeah,
that one?
means again.
Thanks, I just learned it.
So let the minutes read that we have a 7-0 vote on both the short-term and long-term plan. We're moving forward and we're together on it, and we have a vision for a resolution to what we've struggled on. So thank you. We now are
Any
turning.
question? These plans that you just approved, are they in writing so the public can read them?
They will be, and yes, and we'll be happy to talk to you after the meeting.
Just,
I'm not gonna stay there.
Yeah, you can get a copy.
Can you have a copy? I'm gonna ask you,
I have an extra.
This is now a public.
Very
forum,
good
so yes.
Yeah, I guess for clarification, when I send, do you want the red lines on here that show the change or just the?
He's entitled to exactly what is presented.
Okay, we will have, the clerk will have those in her office. You could contact the clerk, she'll send them to you. Thank you. You're welcome. We are now down to on our agenda, the sheriff's office annual vehicle purchase and dishwasher purchase. Do we want to get all the employees in the building to vote on your request?
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Well, it's an interesting concept. Obviously, I think the more you ask questions and the more input you get, the better your intel. Like a military police operation, gather all you can, then make a wise decision. So I support what you're doing, and I know it's been a frustrating period. One thing historically, coming from being a federal agent, formerly coming from being a state officer into the sheriff's model, I'm always taken back that, like, if we get a pay raise, this building gets a pay raise, or all county employees are the same. We are not the same. This is way different. So that's something that down the road, we need to open up our minds on. And you may work at Munson, but you may be a computer programmer, you may be a neurosurgeon, you may be a nurse's assistant. It's hard to say. So I think sometimes the feeling on our side is that we kind of get lumped in a little bit on, well, we can't give you a raise if we give them a raise stuff. So just something for future. So we have a couple items, agendas. One would be the vehicles. We originally requested 5 vehicles, and I think we're prepared down to 3, which we can make work for this year. We discussed that. So was there specific questions anybody had about the type vehicles or what we're doing?
Commissioner Luckner?
I move to recommend to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to allow the sheriff's office to order 2 Ford police interceptors, SUVs, and one Ford Explorer 4x4 fleet vehicle from Lumhammer Ford with price not to exceed $137,895. Upon delivery in 2024, the sheriff's office also be approved to outfit the vehicles and total cost not to exceed $22,100.82.
Support.
To come from the 2024 war fund. And I think I heard support.
Yes.
Move to second. Any questions?
I have.
Commissioner Ludner, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I just have one comment. I see we're going to continue to buy those Tiger Tough seat covers. And I remember when you presented the idea to us to start using those because the in and out, the wear and tear on the seats. Those continue to work as well as you had hoped they would?
Honestly, no. They
No.
slide around, you know, I think there's a Marathon seat cover brand, there's this, that, and the other, kind of like guys are hunting all the time, or farmers or ranchers around cattle, you know, they get messed up, so you can pull those seat covers off, wash them, but from my personal experience, they slide around a lot and they're not stable like seat. I just don't see where it's worked out long-term, honestly.
There's nothing, we haven't found anything better.
I'm
But I still.
Pretty conservative in my beliefs that if you don't need it, don't buy it. And kind of like a WeatherTech floor panel. We do have some floor panels because our boots are always muddy and you salt and mud and all that stuff. There's a need, but I'm not so sure the seat covers are really doing what they should be doing.
A small cost.
Any other
Maybe help some.
questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. And we have a dishwasher purchase request.
Lieutenant Roush, you want to handle that?
Yeah, pretty straightforward on the EDS. The dishwasher that's currently in the jail kitchen is original, so it's 18 years old. They don't manufacture that specific model anymore. Trying to find parts to fix it is almost impossible. Probably in the last 3 to 4 years, we probably spent close to $5,000 just fixing what we have. So it's kind of end of life. We didn't go out for a formal bid process. There was 3 different companies in the state of Michigan that can deal with these. They're all noted there. Stafford Smith out of Traverse City was the least expensive. Also, their stuff gets installed by Hobart Services, who comes out and takes care of everything anyway. So kind of worked out. It was my understanding that this was brought forward at a budget meeting. This was originally in my 2024 budget request. Apparently, the undersheriff was told that this was something we could ask for and probably pay for this year. So that's why we're here.
Commissioner Burke?
I move to recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approves the sheriff's office purchase of a commercial dishwasher from Stafford Smith of Traverse City in the amount of $20,558.97. Funds to come from 225.351.970.000.
Support.
Been moved to second. Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0.
Thank you.
Risk management.
Okay, the next item on here is staff and command reimbursement. Undersheriff, you want to handle that one?
So we've been sending sergeants to staff and command for years, and until recently, I mean, when the school is done, we would always submit it's technically called a RAP grant, but it's a reimbursement. We've never, prior to this and this one, asked for approval to seek that reimbursement, nor have we ever asked for approval to accept the reimbursement, which we have never been denied. Given the conversation and all the talk around grants and approvals and acceptances, we have written this. I actually have the check right here. We've had it for 6 weeks, and I'm here to ask you to accept $3,055, which is a full 50% reimbursement of the class, travel, all the costs associated with that school.
Commissioner Rush.
I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the acceptance of the 2023 RAP grant in the amount of $3,055.30, with the funds to be placed back into Fund 101 1-225-301-860 and 101-225-301-860 as reimbursement for sergeant washers attending Michigan State University staff and school January 23rd through June 23rd.
And I'm sorry about the
We're trying.
All those in support of the motion?
Could I just ask for consideration of where we're putting those funds? Because we don't book revenue into an expense. Is it?
I was just gonna ask you that.
So we're just gonna allow that to go back to the general fund to reimburse the general fund for paying for the class. Yes.
And we can amend our budget up if we need to.
And we,
Okay.
yes,
Works the same. Right?
works the same.
You can still put the check in the bank.
Not my bank, your bank.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yes.
Thank you for, the process was put in place a number of years ago when we had some issues. So it is a good process. It works very well and it keeps us on track. So thank you for that.
And like I said, the confusion, is this a grant? Is it it is what it is. We'll be in front of you for the request and the acceptance in the future.
Thank you. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. And thank the sergeant for doing it.
Thank you. One last item, as you're jumping into personnel committee.
Yes.
We're up here now. We're listed as number 3 on that. Would you want us, while we're here, to answer questions about that?
Yes, let's let Darcy introduce this topic and you stay here, please.
Yep.
Good morning, it's still morning. As you are aware, we have a fantastic staff here at Leelanau County, and one of the great things they have is longevity. And because of that, we are now seeing people deciding to make some changes in their lives and move on to different paths. So we have 3 different requests in front of you today for temporary staffing increases while we explore, hire, and train those replacements. And we can go through them if you don't mind. We can start with the, well, we can go right in order. We can go, let's start with the sheriff. Yeah, Jana Kiesel has been with the sheriff's office for a long time.
20+ years.
So I know it's going to be a big deal to train her because she's got a very unique job. So maybe you want to talk about that a little bit.
So as I had spoke, I believe, was at a previous meeting, I don't know if it was budget or where it was. Janice, a cog in our wheel. I mean, she does reports, she does stats, she communicates with the federal government for statistics, whether it be index crimes or whatever. She helps the sheriff with the annual report. She is a oversight with a couple other people on the in-house system that involves dispatch in the jail. She has a very unique position, and her knowledge is her knowledge. It's very institutional, and there is nobody in that building who can train her replacement other than herself. I can't do it. The lieutenants can't do it. The sheriff can't do it. Jan is unique, and that position is unique. It's one-off. It's the only one that exists in the county. So we would ask that we are allowed to hire somebody prior to her retirement in April and have as much time for that new hire to spend with Jana as possible to learn our day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, and even year-to-year things that Jana does that no one else can do.
Question from me, and I support overlap. I wondered if 4 months is necessary.
I think so.
Is that
She has a very, as the under sheriff said, she has a very unique position. I think she's also a little bit frustrated, the position she's in. She doesn't see herself as a secretary. She sees herself as an office manager or a administrative manager for there. So I think that's something maybe we'll have to discuss with the personnel director and so forth, but without being too gross, the stuff she has to see and the stuff she has to type that we see, we're a different blend, but the stuff we see, the public shouldn't see. It's very tough. It's not something for everybody. And it's very difficult for her emotionally to process some of the stuff she's dealing with. Obviously, it's hard for all the deputies as well because they're there, but she's in a bit of a different position. So we're looking for a unique individual to replace her. And it's going to take all of 4 months. Honestly, it'll be a couple years worth of training, but in 4 months, I think we can get that person up to speed where they can function, especially under her mentoring. We do have a half-time worker there, but she is more limited to the report typing and the grading the public. So she comes in 4 hours a day. It works out good. She does now want to change status. So we're looking internally. Is there someone here within the county who wants to come over and take that position, or do we look externally? But it's gonna take a lot of training, honestly.
Commissioner Ward?
I support it. I just hope that out of this, some people come and they go quickly in their jobs, that we get a detailed job description out of this. Just in case somebody comes up and 2 months later, they're out of here. And
Right.
To have a job, I know, I worked with Jenna for
Right.
years, you know, fantastic. But I don't know what she does.
Right. No, that's a
So
really
neither
good
do we
point.
some days. I mean, that's that detailed. I can't, I said, I can't train it. If I can't train it, I obviously not sure how it works, right?
And her mom worked for us.
Prior to her, she
77,
replaced
so-
her mother, so.
And that would be an excellent thing for us to sit down with Jana and work on and bring to the personnel committee.
I mean, like the sheriff said, the classification is executive secretary, but it is far more than that. I mean, she is not, I don't know who else in this building is classified as an executive secretary, but I'm sure they do not deal with 3 different departments, you know, IT and several different issues that she deals with. So.
Yes.
Can I go ahead and address this elephant?
Yeah.
Is that why she's departing?
Partially,
Okay.
honestly, without getting too personal, doesn't make much money.
Yeah.
Number one, that's an issue. When I go by Culver's and Chick-fil-A and McDonald's and I see 21, 22 bucks an hour and I look at
I'm
what
looking at this and I agree with you.
you see it, and I didn't want to make that real public, but that's it. That's part of it. And she had some mortality in the family this year, losing parents, and she's been through cancer. It's been a lot in her life, you know, she's tough, but she's really struggling financially. And just as we saw with the finance director position, a lot of people don't apply for things if the pay level is too low. You want to get that initial, I'm interested in that, so to speak. So it's something I think we need to address. I think working with Darcy, I'm very, very comfortable with her, I guess, interest in and compassion. She works with us. One of the reasons you change the name, and for some reason, certain things stick and work. I think changing the name would be a good time maybe to address is the pay commensurate for what's going on work-wise. She'll have headsets on, be typing a very detailed report. Remember, we'd be scrutinized in court in a lawsuit or anything. She's doing that. Someone's knocking on the front window and the phone's ringing, and then we're walking up to her. Can you get this report by 10 o'clock? Because the prosecutor needs it right away. And it's one of those jobs where a lot of people just kind of pull their hair out or just walk away from their desk. She's tolerated a lot over the years, and that's why I'm advocating for that position. And as she said, I'm leaving in April, no matter what. And I don't know why I'm even doing this or saying this, but she says, I just want it good for the next person because she basically hasn't been compensated enough. I think that's the biggest issue would be compensation, right?
There's a suggested motion on 166. Anybody ready to make a motion? Commissioner Russell?
I have.
I'll make a motion. I move to recommend.
To further your point, this is a union position. And that union, their last contract shrunk the pay scale. And the part-time secretary who comes in and works 4 hours a day moved up and now makes the same amount as Jana, who's been here 20 years. That leads directly to the question you had. Those pay scales were shrunk, put in the same pay grade. That part-time secretary got a significant raise.
Well, it's a union negotiation.
It was,
Right.
and she knows that, and I've told her that, you know,
Yeah.
it's a union thing. The sheriff and I are limited how much we can say, do, or even fight for you, but
Yeah.
yes.
Commissioner Richard?
I move to recommend that the county board of commissioners along with the sheriff's office to be allowed to temporarily raise their staffing levels, hire administrative secretary on January 1, 2024. To work and train with the current full-time administrative secretary until her retirement on April 19, 2024.
Support.
And Commissioner Russ?
Yeah, I'm having a little hard time with this. 4 months is a long time to have this going on. And I just see, maybe it's the personnel committee, a brand new committee for the county. Maybe we can help work with cross-training within an office. So this kind of overlap won't be necessary in the future. And also, I just think we need to, we just need to figure out how a succession plan would include more ways to bring this institutional knowledge to more people. I can't see us approving as we get more of these people leaving. I can't see approving these each time. I'm gonna have a real hard time with that. So I want to take it as a task and put it on our next personnel committee agenda, please, that we try to start a planning process to see how we can minimize this impact to our county residents, our taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, I don't disagree with Commissioner Ross. I just think one thing, as Sheriff has pointed out in this position, you deal with some pretty icky stuff. And 4 months, what you might find is someone who really thinks they can do it and get 2 months into it and say, I just, not even a facet of the pay or anything else, just might not be able to deal with the icky. I think in this particular case, maybe a little bit longer is warranted so that you have time to regroup again.
Right.
If you have to. So that's the reason I support this length of time, but I do agree with Commissioner Ross in general. It has to be a very specific set of circumstances to work this long of a time. I just think in this case, it probably exists. I wouldn't be surprised if probably one doesn't possibly work for you.
Commissioner Rourke and then Commissioner Kramer.
I agree with Commissioner Ross, but the thing is, the only person that can rubber stamp this person is Jen. We don't know, she's the only person that says, yes, this person can do the job. If it takes 4 months or if it takes longer, and I agree with Kama, yes, but get the job description down. Thank
you.
Yeah, and I think, this overlap in this time period will hopefully allow some documentation of the processes that Janet goes through and maybe really get that down. So moving forward, there will be a system in place. And especially with the time period, so maybe that is part of the transition.
An interesting thing in law enforcement, we have an FTO process, field training officer process. So we hire a deputy, whether fresh out of the NMC Academy or trooper transfers, whatever. It's in a very extensive and exhausting process. So we generally, when we lose a deputy, we've got to pre-hire them because we can't just say, here's the keys to the car, have a good time, go learn the roads and learn the people. And it's a very tenuous process. We're very different than a lot of other agencies in law enforcement because the second we brand them and put an arm patch and a badge on them, this county is liable for anything that happens, good, bad, or otherwise. And we don't want to set any precedent up for not training people, getting them up to speed and then finding out we had a big failure or a broken bridge somewhere. So that's why it's a different type of training. You'll see this like in the electrical and commercial trades. You don't just become an electrician. You become a journeyman after a great amount of training and a great amount of knowledge and institutional knowledge is passed on. So that just that's my synopsis of why we need these extensive training periods. So.
Are we ready? Commissioner Lovett.
Thank you. So you have another part-time position that helps with this
Yes.
job. Is it possible that they can help train, or are you leaning on them to train after the 4 months?
That the other person does not have the institutional knowledge that Jana has. So she'll have some help, but primarily it's going to be Jana. There's a lot of systems that came in place in the last 10 years, especially in the last 5 years, a lot of electronics, a lot of micro type things and things that involve a lot of technical detail and connections with the state police and the FBI and lean and NCIC. And there's a lot to it that Jana's going to have to pass on directly. We all know a little component of it. We can't do all of it, honestly.
Part-timer. I mean, all morning Jana is doing primarily reports, statistics, things of that nature. The part-time comes in at noon, works noon to 4. Jana's then retired to her specific office, doing all the things that the part-timer doesn't do. Basically, the part-timer is finishing and completing the job that Jana started in the morning. So 40-50% of the job, yes, she can train, she can teach. It's the other 40 to 50% that nobody can teach.
And the part-timer, they schedule fingerprinting in the afternoons, answering the phone, handling things, people bringing concealed weapons permit applications in, people coming in, visitation, so forth. So it's really, it's two full-time positions, but the part-timer just wants to work part-time. So we kind of blend it that way. Once the second person comes in at noon, then Jana retires to office, and that's where more technical details occur.
We ready to vote?
Yeah, let's do it.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved 7-0.
Thank you for all your support. Appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
Darcy,
Thank
we're
you,
now
Darcy.
up to the planning director.
Okay. Well, as you are aware, Trudy Gala will be retiring in January. Her last physical day of work will be November 30th. We're asking that you allow a temporary staffing increase for us to be able to hire a planning director sooner than later, because there's an awful lot of work that needs to be done.
So do you have, that's 2 weeks.
I know, it's coming quickly.
So do you have any people in mind?
We do actually have a few applications. No decisions have been made. We have not done interviews yet. We really are kind of waiting for the approval to go to the next step.
Can you start them after this week? I mean, we don't have any time left for ourselves.
Yeah, I know we don't have time, but no, I doubt we'll have anyone in before Trudy departs.
So why?
We do have Gail in the office, and Trudy's been, as we saw today, handing off several things to Gail. So I don't think it's a crisis. I think we just.
No, it's not a crisis. It's just.
Commissioner Rexroth.
I'd like to make a motion here because we lacked the ability to go backwards in time and do it 2 weeks ago. So let's do it today. I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the temporary staffing level increase in the Planning and Community Development Director position for the remainder of 2023 through January 19th, 2024, as recommended by the Personnel Committee.
Support.
Yes, Commissioner Russ.
So does this also include the opportunity for Ms. Gala to come back?
She
after
is,
she's-
she is going to be using vacation time up until the point that she, or her retirement date. However, she has said she will be available to assist during that time remotely. So if we can get at least someone in place that can communicate with her for at least until January 19th, that would be ideal.
Can we talk to Trudy?
Trudy?
Right there. I'd like to talk to Trudy. Thanks.
So just to add to what Darcy said, I will be doing some work from home. I do have a couple planning sessions, one or two of them that will be taking me out of the area in December and January, but I've told my staff and I told Deb and Darcy as well that I will be available to assist, even though I won't be physically in the office all that time.
Well, I mean, from an objective standpoint, we've only worked together a limited amount of time, plus your reputation kind of precedes you. You seem to be assistance person, so what do you need from the board to help you facilitate this transition?
Approval of this would really be helpful because if you are fortunate enough to get somebody in place before I'm totally out of the payroll system, I would be willing to work with that person and help them along. I'm also working on something that I will share with you when I'm done with it. Is I am going through every single thing that we do in our office. I'm typing it up. I've got a chart and I've got a status of what's done, what's not done, what needs to be done in the future, what needs to be done on a monthly basis, on an annual basis. So whoever comes into that position as a good starting point, I don't want to just leave it, you know, that they need to, where are we with solid waste council? Well, here's the chapters and here's what you need to go through and get done. So I'm doing that in preparation of not being here anymore.
Commissioner Rick, do you have confidence in Gail that the wheels aren't gonna fall off?
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Oh, yeah.
So-
My staff is ready. We're working. We had a meeting yesterday. We have another meeting tomorrow or Thursday to go through things and do some hands-on stuff in the computer system, logins and different things that they're not aware of. So, yeah, they'll be ready.
The way you do things.
I don't want to leave you in a lurch.
So let's communicate that to the sheriff's department perhaps, and then maybe they could be doing the same until April of 2024. That administrative assistant or secretary, whatever her position title is, be doing actively. And if she needs some guidance, are you willing to help her figure out how to organize charts and graphs so that we can not lose this?
I'm willing to share what I'm doing, but frankly, my time is dwindling down here and I didn't realize in the last month how much more would be piling up because that's what's happening.
And you'll be probably sharing that with Darcy too?
Oh, yeah.
So maybe Darcy could share that, but. So, yeah, thank you, Trudy, for
Sure.
coming.
Commissioner Auger.
Thank you for your incredible service. I am so glad for you because it's so fun to retire. And we are bereft and appreciate your service and sad to see you go.
Thanks. I'll be around somewhere.
We'll find you, don't worry.
Yes, I know where you live.
Mr. Kramer, did you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just curious I mean, I don't even know if I should be asking this question, but would it be a possibility, or are you guys interested in looking at someone internally as a candidate? Since they work with you directly and know the processes?
I have to leave that with the human resources and how they go through their process. So.
We have a few applications that are being considered. I'm gonna leave it at that for right now.
No, I don't want to be involved in the hiring process.
No, I was, needed to be reminded where we are with the motion.
We have a motion on the table.
Do it.
All those in support of calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
The question has been called. All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved, 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for hearing that.
The next item on the agenda is very similar. The executive assistant Laurel Evans has made the decision to retire. She is looking at a March retirement date. However, she is planning on working through the month of December. And after that, we will have no one in the office to fulfill those duties. So I'm here to ask for a temporary staffing increase for the executive assistant position so that we can continue making sure the work gets done.
Commissioner Auger.
I would move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the temporary staffing level increase for the executive assistant position for the remainder of 2023 through March 8, 2024, as recommended by the Personnel Committee. And can I make a comment? Oh, needs to be supported. Support.
Now you may make a comment.
And again, you have such a body of knowledge, and we appreciate everything you do in your service. Very sad to see you go. And hope this transition is good for you.
Any other questions or comments?
Once again, I just like to encourage Ms. Evans to see if we can follow Trudy's lead on trying to capture some of your knowledge on paper before you leave.
It's a process.
Thank you.
All those in support of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved, 7-0. Thank you. Thank you, Laurel. Thank you, Darcy.
Thank you.
We now have are you the next one?
Yeah, I sure am.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next item on the agenda is a request for approval for an agreement with Raymond Robson for the preparation of preparation, filing, and mailing of Form 1095C or 1095B, which is your employer-provided health insurance offer and coverage, which is a requirement under the Affordable Care Act. These forms have been done several years now by Raymond Robson. They are quite complex. So I'm just asking that you approve the agreement with them to continue allowing them to assist with this.
Commissioner Rexroth?
Do we have an idea of the amount we're approving?
The amount you are approving is $4,080. Sorry, I did not put that in your,
Okay, there it is. I see it up there. I'm sorry.
yeah. I did actually call around to a couple other companies to see if there was anyone who would, and to get some other input on, is this a fair price, et cetera, but I really had no luck finding anyone else who was willing to help out with this.
Yes, Commissioner.
I move to recommend to the County Board of Commissioners to waive bid policy and to approve the service agreement with Raymond Robson LLC for services as outlined in the agreement. Funds to come from Board of Commissioners contractual services 101, 100, 101, 801, 000.
Support.
Yes,
Can
Michelle.
I add to the motion funds not to exceed $4,080?
Absolutely.
So we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm not opposed. I just have a comment.
Okay, motion approved 7-0. Commissioner Algar.
And I understand that there are outstanding consulting services. That,
That's the next item.
is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Let me, I did talk to the administrator. I was a part of a phone conversation with Raymond, as directed by the finance committee, a couple of days ago. Talked to Steve Peacock. Steve Peacock wanted additional information. He then had a follow-up call with Deb Allen. They have asked for some information. She has provided that information. It is now in the hands of the principals, and they are going to get back to us, and I suspect we will hear by Tuesday. So that's the only update that I have. I did talk personally with Mr. Raymond and about the bill and the unclaimed unpaid invoices.
So we could make a motion on Tuesday to pay that.
But first, we need to make sure we owe it. And after the discussion that I had with Mr. Peacock and Deb had with Mr. Peacock, I think there were questions about what part of that was extra, what part of it was about the former agreement. So we've agreed to get a revised bill, an updated bill from Raymond, at which time we would move to approve it.
Okay, because my understanding was we were paying late fees and we want to make sure we stop doing that.
I did not hear in my conversation with them on Thursday any reference to late fees. I have not talked to Kathy about that. I did talk to Chris and looked at the Raymond bills, and I did not see any late fees.
Just to add to that, if based on the longstanding relation we've had with Raymond and the confusion about the situation, they are charging and trying to collect late fees from us, I would move to terminate their relationship immediately.
I heard no reference to late fees. Commissioner Ludden?
What we have here is, I need to wrap this up. I also talked to our auditors, and my understanding is we asked for service from them and they provided service from them. And in place was a procedure where before they went over, they asked for authority from our administrator. It was given, it went over, we have this bill. So we have this outstanding bill with them since August. So we have been just kicking this can down the road. So there have been late fees added because I think they want to wrap this up, which is, I believe, understood of any any one of our vendors. We have to pay our bills. It's not like we're in mediation with them. It's not like this is in front of a judge or anything like that. They're just simply saying, they've given us the information and I have reviewed it. I believe we owe this bill. I will put off making the motion to pay the bill until Tuesday night, but no later than Tuesday night. I believe that they need to be paid for their services. As I said, these go back to, I believe, like August 8th. And maybe even June. I'm not exactly sure when. You can see those invoices if you choose to. I did ask for them because I wanted to try to get to the bottom of this. But this is an upstanding company that has done their best to try to resolve this issue, and we need to resolve it. So I would make a motion, this is on the agenda for Tuesday night to resolve.
And
It already is. Yeah, I would support that.
Well, maybe
it
a
would have to
part.
be moved forward. And
Has to be
the
moved
motion is to move forward. All those in support of moving it forward to next Tuesday.
Aye.
Just a comment, I was directed to do this. I don't think you talked to Mr. Peacock since I talked to him on Thursday. And he asked us at that time to wait until he could do some research. So that is what we're doing until next Tuesday. We now are at legal update. Darcy.
Yes. Policy 1.07, which is your non-union personnel policy, is in front of you today. I brought that here because to be compliant with the Paid Medical Leave Act, new employees have to be eligible for personal days or paid sick leave within 90 days of employment. Our current policy says personal days are not available until after 6 months. So the update is just to make this policy compliant with the law that stands.
Mr. Rush.
I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the update county policy number 1.07, non-union personnel policy as required by the Michigan Paid Medical Leave Act.
Support.
Any discussion? Can't believe it. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Did you vote yes? Motion approved 7-0. We are now down to the voluntary donated sick leave policy.
And this policy was presented to the Personnel Committee. They have reviewed it. We had input from department heads. This policy was actually written by legal counsel and then sent to Raymond Robson, where they reviewed and updated it to make sure it was compliant with IRS regulations. So I'm bringing this to you today to decide what you would like to do with it.
Mr. Rush.
As chair of the personnel committee, I'd like to also share, that there's a lot of discussion on this item. And I did receive input from Darcy, Ms. Weaver, about this is a living document, correct? And that it can be amended, reviewed. I just wondered if we could put a time that at least once a year or some sort of time frame to make sure that employees feel like, because it was changed pretty quickly, and so there are still some thoughts out there that I don't think have been totally vetted. So is there a policy with these kind of documents that it's reviewed once a year?
There is no county policy, but a good practice is to review your policies yearly.
So I, really encourage us to go forward with this, because right now it's all on hold and no one can use it. So saying yes today at least gets it utilized by the employees in which it's geared for. But again, we have some issues that we want to have conversations with still within the personnel committee with the HR director. So just know that that's an ongoing process.
Okay.
One of the things that I asked for is that all department heads approve this and speak with their employees, and I was told that that did happen.
This was sent out to all department heads and elected officials, yes. I did not receive feedback from all of them, but they had the opportunity.
Any other discussion, Commissioner Lyle?
Yes, I just have to say, I'm sorry that we ever even touched this policy. As I understand it, if we had left it alone, we could have continued on with what we had was a very good policy and a very good practice, very good procedure. The implications of the IRS implications were so minor that I was told we'd never been touched. Same as many businesses in the area are still continuing to do this for that very reason. Their employees were happy. I understand our new administrator didn't like it, therefore we looked into it. And of course, once you lift the bottom of that tent and look in, you got a problem, and that's where we're at today. And I think that's sad. I just wish we had never touched it. It was a good thing. And now I do hope it will continue, but I've heard reservations or concerns about just donating days that they don't know who the days will necessarily go to if there are leftover days. And so in other businesses, I know in Traverse, Munson, for one, I spoke to an employee there, and they said once they implemented a policy like this, donations dropped to like 40% of where they were before. So there will be implications, and I just hope it goes well.
Commissioner Russ, Commissioner Kramer, and Commissioner Rohr.
I applaud the efforts that our administrative team has done on this. We are following the law and a recommendation from our auditor. We are doing the right thing. Unfortunately, it's not popular, but I think given what we've done so far, it's still going to serve the purpose as best we can within the framework that the law provides. So clearly.
Thank you. Commissioner Kramer.
One thing is, I was disappointed how this whole thing, I'm gonna say that I agree with Melinda. Sure, they were having. But I was really disappointed with how this was handled. It wasn't, and I know that it's not just you or Steve, but it didn't come before the board before it was implemented to the employees, which I believe is a big no-no. It was up to the board. This should have been a board decision from the very beginning. And I'm kind of with Melinda, something that brings our team members together and our employees should be celebrated and not dissected, especially without board permission. I'm not sure where I sit with this.
Commissioner Rohr.
There's nothing minor about violating IRS rules. Okay. Darcy's job, if she knows she's doing something illegal, you may not have a job.
Ready to vote?
Ignorance was bliss.
Ignorance.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Who's in?
Aye.
And Kramer.
Okay, motion approved 5-2. Thank you. Now we're going down to Matt and the emergency management performance grant, and that's on page 203 of your board.
All right, this should have been a very straightforward grant.
Just 1 second.
Yep.
Who actually made that motion? I don't know. I think you just voted on a motion that didn't exist. I'm sorry.
No, I believe.
Commissioner Ross.
Tammy made the motion.
Did anyone second?
And I think Gwen seconded it.
There was a motion.
Ross
I read
made the
some.
prior motion on the personnel policy. You didn't make one on this one.
Okay.
You voted on no motion.
Looking for a motion on the previous
198.
agenda item?
Go back to
Okay. I'd like to make it if I can. I move to recommend that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve by resolution to adopt the voluntary medical sick leave donation policy that is compliant with the Internal Revenue Service as recommended by the Personnel Committee.
Support.
And moved and seconded. I don't think we have to hear comments again, so all those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 5-2 against.
Back to my.
Okay, Matt.
Okay,
Thanks, Michelle.
what I have before you is an annual EMPG grant agreement. It should have been very straightforward. Unfortunately, there has been some shortcomings as far as the grant money is concerned to the local programs. This does partially fund my position. And what the state did is, in order to address those shortcomings with the funding, is they took some money from the soon to be expiring FY21 ARPA funds in order to fill that gap. So that's the big confusion that's with this proposal, but it is part of the annual contract that we have before you for partial funding of my position.
Commissioner Love.
Well, I wanted to comment on this, so for the purpose of our procedures, I would move to recommend to the County Board of Commissioners to accept the 2023 RAP grant in the amount of $3,055.30 with funds to be placed back into fund.
Not the RAP grant.
Oh, sorry, so sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm way up, so sorry. Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna go into
That's fine.
for this, that's my question. So these were taken from 2021 ARPA funds to go towards your 2023. Okay, how does this work with our auditors and our budget? And do we have to go back, Kathy's not in the room, do we have to go back and amend our past years? Or is that just brought forward in revenues and stated as such? How does that work? And maybe the clerk has the answer. How, when these come from 2 years ago, Kathy, there she is, she's behind me, I can't see her.
Oh,
She's
yeah,
behind me.
I'm just catching up on this. I think it's the state ARPA money. It's not.
Yeah,
ours.
it's not local, it's from the state. So since it's FY21, all that money is going to expire at the end of this year.
Right.
So they're using it to fill that gap that it was created with the money that's being distributed for FY23.
So if the state adds it to those monies, they're going to give you, we don't have to worry about it, is that what?
That's my understanding.
You and all that messy stuff of all those
Yeah,
old funds.
it's very messy too.
Okay, so we don't, as long as we don't have to worry about it. Okay.
No, as long as we have those two grant agreements that I have before the board, as long as those are kept together, it's fine.
All right, okay.
Yeah, I was on a conference call with the state a little over an hour ago, and then it was still pretty confusing, but.
Commissioner Love.
I would move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve and allow the chairman of the board to sign the FY23 EMPG work agreement and other documents related to this grant agreement, and to amend the FY21 EMPG work agreement and allow the Leelanau County Office of Emergency Management to submit electronic signatures for the required
Quarterly.
reports. Is this
Correct.
the right motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Support.
Okay, good.
It's everything in it.
Yeah.
And I want to confirm, so the rest of the ARPA money is good through 2024, right?
We have till 2026 to spend our ARPA money.
Thank you.
Oh, it's been moved and seconded. Who seconded that? Okay, any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
Thank you.
And
Thanks,
that
Matt.
still offsets your salary.
I thought.
Yes, yeah, it goes,
Offsets that little bit.
correct.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
I thought you'd take a voluntary pay cut.
Yeah, no, sorry. Sorry, can't do that. You'd have to take on my wife with that one. I don't want to do that.
Commissioner Lautner has asked for a 3-minute break.
3. I asked for 1. You're being very generous.
That's quick.
Let's take a 5-minute break.
That means 9.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to help some people out, but sometimes they don't know what they want.
Michelle, are you ready?
Yes. Yes.
We are back to order, please. Thank you. We are now at Andrew and the L4402.
So I was before you, the last regular board meeting in October for approval of the 4402, which is the apportionment report. The state of Michigan says that we have to meet an apportionment session in October. As a result of that, every apportionment report that a board of commission approves in October is tentative because the actual report is due at the end of November, and that's to account for any elections that may occur in November. So if there are any millages that are appearing on the November ballot, we want to be able to take account of those. In Leelanau County, there were no millage requests on the ballot that impacted our current levies for this year. But Leelanau Township did reduce on their L4029, they reduced their fire and emergency service millage from 3.5095 down to a flat 3. So, well, that was the savings to the taxpayers of $272,710. So that is the revision on the 4402, and that's the only revision.
Commissioner Ross.
I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the revised county apportionment report L4402 as presented.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate having you in.
On item number 8 on the agenda, last night Laurel forwarded to you a letter that I drafted in support of a request that the tribe is submitting. I was late in writing that letter, which is why it got to you late. So I would like just to move that forward until next week, at which time we could discuss it. Today, you were also given a description of the grant that's being applied for, so that we can add this. If I could have a motion to move it forward to next Tuesday, I would appreciate it.
So moved.
Support. Any discussion? All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that.
We now have Trudy Gala back. And to remind us, we have an invite for next Tuesday.
Yes, yes. So next Tuesday at 4:30, you are invited to come to the Bluebird to actually do a little walkthrough of their proposed project. And Skip and Lynn Telgard will kind of lead you through that and see if you have any questions. I've already checked with Michelle to make sure it's posted that it is not a meeting, that you've been invited. There could be a quorum there, but it's not a meeting. No decisions or action will be taken. So we'll make sure that we got that all covered. So that's out of my hands. 4:30. So that would be 4:30, which would give us, 45 minutes or a little bit more, and then get back here. You have your public hearing at 6 o'clock on the Brownfield plan, and that's when I will be here and go through, well, I'll be at the 4:30 session too, but at 6 o'clock public hearing, also, I'll go through the Brownfield plan more with you and see if there's any questions. And so the request before you today is on the resolution to adopt the Brownfield plan. And what I'm asking is that you move it forward to your 7 PM meeting next Tuesday night for actual action. I'm available to answer any questions now that you might have, or anytime before next Tuesday. I don't know if you want to get into depth on it now.
I would move to recommend that the Board of Commissioners place a resolution for the Bluebird Brownfield plan on the regular meeting agenda Tuesday, November 21st for action by the board. Support.
Commissioner Luther?
Did you want to speak to the issue? Tell me again in a nutshell how this property qualifies, because I had someone ask me how it qualifies, because it's the same owner, it was a restaurant, we just been tear down, rebuilt.
Yep.
Was there contamination? How did it
It's
qualify?
a couple things, and it's in the actual brownfield plan that I sent to you. There's a letter of obsolescence. So, and the tall guards will go over that next
I
week
couldn't
as well.
find it at the time, but go ahead. I never it was, but.
Okay.
It qualifies.
It qualifies as obsolescence. So that building it's old. It's 4 stories. It's been added on to the HVAC system, is out of date. It no longer serves the purposes of what it was originally intended to do. I mean, it's huge. There's so much of it that is out of date. I did a walkthrough of it after they pulled up the flooring. They checked for asbestos, and it was remarkable to see the changes once they started getting in there and taking things apart. So there's also asbestos in there, and we are, because of the age of the building, you also consider there's probably lead-based paint in there as well.
By your opinion, experience qualifies.
Yes, it does. We couldn't work on it. We couldn't work on it with EPA assessment grant funds if it did not qualify as what is considered a facility. And we could not put it in a brownfield plan if it did not qualify. So if it didn't, we wouldn't even be here.
And it qualifies under this excellence.
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions for Trish?
In the other, this obsolescence, is that qualification only for business or something that's not privately owned? Whereas if you've got a 100-year-old house that may have asbestos and lead paint, they couldn't fall under a brownfield plan and tear down, rebuild, and get TIF dollars.
We have to look at each individual site, on its own merits. Every one that we've done is different. So, in a situation like that, we would have to look at what is the end result? What are you trying to do with the property? In this case, we've got a commercial development, jobs retained, additional jobs added, and so forth. And it's all spelled out in that brownfield plan. But we will go through that in more detail at the public hearing as well.
So in your experience, have you ever done a residential?
We have not. It may be possible to do a residential site if you're putting it into another housing project. For instance, there's one that's being proposed in the county where there is contamination on site and the residential building may get torn down and then developed into a new residential development.
But developed, not
Yes,
just single home.
right.
Other questions to Trudy? We do have a motion on the floor. Okay.
Yes.
All those in support of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion approved. 7-0. Now we have the tire recycling and the mattress recycling, and I have been reminded that we need to insert dollar amounts in our motion on those. Go ahead, Trudy.
Okay, so the first one is an amendment to an existing contract that we have with ERG. So when this contract was developed by corporate counsel a few years ago, I asked them to make sure they put the ability in there for us to extend the contract with them on 1-year basis. So that's what this is a 1-year extension. They are capped at $11,000 per collection. So the total would be $22,000.
Commissioner O'Gara?
I would move to recommend that the Board of Commissioners approve the tire recycling amendment with ERG for 2024 as submitted in the amount of not to exceed $22,000. And you will supply the fund number, please.
Support. Been moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you. Now on page 237, we have the next one, which is recycling for Jerry's mattress.
Okay, so this one with regard to the dollar amount, I'm not sure exactly what you'd want to put in there unless you go with the $8,000 that we had budgeted, because we have a contract with them for each collection of $2,548, but they do get paid $15 per mattress beyond 100. So it depends on how many mattresses we collect.
Yeah,
for that.
not to exceed.
We budgeted $8,000 for 2 collections. I mean, that would be plenty if there's a not to exceed of $8,000. And this is, again, we've worked with Bay Area Recycling on this. In the past, they are the only ones that do mattress recycling anywheres near us, and they take these apart and recycle just about everything they possibly can out of the mattresses.
Motion to recommend that the board approve the 2024 mattress recycling contract with Bay Area Recycling for Community as submitted, not to exceed $8,000.
Support. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Judy. We now are down to Parks and Recreation Commission. We have 2 items there. First one is an email from Casey Noonan.
Well, that's for the second portion, part B.
Okay. Let's go to the first one. That's to roll funding forward. Commissioner Love?
Yes, if I may, I would ask that this be placed on the agenda for Tuesday night for a recommendation to move funding projects, to move forward projects that were not completed in 2023 into the 2024 budget.
Support.
Discussion?
So what we will do is we will name the projects, name the funds needed for those projects, and have that in a full motion by Tuesday night.
So you're just asking this to be moved forward? Commissioner Rushford?
Not that I disagree, I'm just, I thought we had talked about this as part of our capital outlay plans, or was that not part of that? I thought that was a discussion. Yeah.
So Michelle just clarified with us that we can't just roll over from the general fund. Look at item. Figure out if they were completed and then.
We can get the list with Kathy and we can go through, because you did talk about it during the budget process, and increasing those numbers. So we can see what has been already placed in the budget. Because you did talk about it at the budget work session 23 and what hadn't been done, increasing that bottom line. And I know that we ran out of time last night to look at that specific. So once we have that list and how much they are, we can compare and be able to know.
Get that information to us before the next meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got a draft.
Let's not.
I'd like it to be approved.
I thought there were 2 different issues here. One was a permission to carry over the unspent dollars from last year's budget. That's one issue. The other issue is additional monies for Parks and Recreation that we were going to do as a part of the capital outlay.
I'm more than willing to take up that issue right now too. This one is on the capital items we were unable to complete. That's what this motion is about.
But they're tied together, I do believe.
But are we talking about just what was in the budget unspent, or are we talking about new dollars?
This is the unspent dollars in 2023.
This is what we're talking
These are unspent dollars. If we can roll those for those projects, that would be such as a pavilion for next year, or I think it's a Veronica Valley, if I'm not mistaken.
But what you're talking about with unspent when it comes to the general fund, you need to be really careful, because you just can't take everyone in the general fund that doesn't spend their full account and roll forward. That's just, it's not good practice.
It is not good practice. We only did this one other time when we were unable to spend our capital. But we have such a small capital for 3 county parks that it's kind of an exception in my mind at least.
Everybody's clear that we're just talking now about rolling over the money from this year's budget.
And we're actually just talking now about moving this forward. We're not
That's
talking about
right.
voting.
That's
So let's
right.
make it further clear. Yeah.
All those in support of the motion to move it forward to next Tuesday, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's roll it over. Thank you. And now we have the second item, Laura.
Yeah, I had reached out to select members of the Parks Commission based on comments made at a previous meeting, because I do assist them quite a bit. And I reached out to people who chair the 3 parks subcommittees, as well as the chairman of the Parks Commission, because there seemed to be disagreement over whether or not I really earned the funding for this. And it's been a very busy year in administration, but I have still been able to fulfill whatever they needed with parks. And as has been requested in the last few years, it comes in the form of a stipend due to financial constraints with taxing or something, and it's not really considered part of my overall wage. So I gave you a synopsis of how this evolved from an executive committee meeting of the parks during their budgeting process in 2021, as well as true board minutes recommending it in 2022. And then former Administrator Janik's memo to the board last year in December for this. And it was previously broken down into 2 components, with the bulk of the payment happening mid-year and the final allotment happening at the end of the year. And I did not bring this to you in June due to a lot of the things that were being discussed, thinking I would just attack this at the end of the year. And that's why I'm before you asking to reaffirm the stipend that the Parks Commission had unanimously had endorsed.
I have a suggestion that we just move forward with this until next week. I think it's awkward having an employee, any employee come and present on their behalf a request. And I think this should come from either a Parks Commission member or the administrator or the HR. So I would like to roll it forward if people agree with that. I don't think we ought to have individual staff come before us.
That's a tough spot.
Yeah, it does.
I would support, I would move to move this issue forward to our regular session.
Move to second. All those in support of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed?
But who are we delegating? Or is that-
I'm going to ask the administrator to do that. Thank you. We are now down at review of financials.
Isn't there something about a drain commission vehicle?
Oh, we had a late addition item
Correct,
that
yeah.
I missed.
12.
Yes.
Yes, we do. Yep, that's right.
Yep.
This one. Good save, Gwen.
Thank you. It's on page 250. Yes, Commissioner Over.
Isn't it this?
Yes.
Yeah, you got it. I would move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the lease reassignment of the Motor Pool Fund 661 2006 Chevrolet EU.
Pickup.
Oh, pickup.
You. Sorry.
To the Drain Commissioner for the remainder of 23 and 24 at a continued budgeted expense and current cost of 10 cents a mile. Funds to come from 101-690-275-940-000.
Yes, Commissioner Earthworm.
So I just have a question. There's been a fair lot of discussion about changing the motor pool rates and suggestion that be done as early as possible next year. Is that something, if that were adopted, we just amend this? Or
That's why I said current rate of 10 cents in the
so
morning.
it won't lock us in, or we can make it more next month?
Yeah,
Okay,
because I'm well aware that's on the discussions. Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Elgar?
I'd like to make another comment, a short comment, and that is, at the end of this, we need to start considering getting hybrids.
No.
Oh, gosh, here we go.
Because I don't believe we enjoy, I can't imagine saying, no, we don't want to save money on gas. But we have 2 more years of spending a lot of money on gas, so you can almost.
Commissioner Kramer?
I don't know what the deal is with the hybrids. I think it's a good idea long-term, we'll get there. I do know that there's a heavy wait list for hybrids right now, so that might be impacting some of our decisions.
Well, we have 2 more years on this. I'm saying we need to move to hybrids. Not for the police.
The question has been called. All those in support?
Aye.
And to vote for the motion, all those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0. Thank you. Thanks for the save, Commissioner Oliver. We are now down at review of financials. Any questions for Kathy?
Nice to see a smaller amount.
On page 1, we had batteries plus bulbs, and maybe somebody has the answer for this. What is a 12-volt battery? It's not a car battery, because I don't think these are car batteries at $35 a piece.
They could be for emergency lighting batteries, it could be, they make little teeny ones that.
They're not DC then, are they like,
They're just.
they're special batteries? What is he using them for? Are they like, in the Spire suppression system or the,
Yeah, I couldn't tell you, but I could get the answer and email you.
yeah, some kind of special, but
They're unusual looking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
okay.
not something that I think a normal household would buy.
We normal, they're, I don't know what he uses them for, but there are many small 12 volt. Yeah, that looks like something that would fit into a, like a exit light, standalone.
Yes,
exit light.
that's
Doesn't
what I
have
was
a
trying to think of.
direct
Okay,
emergency
that's what
lighting.
I
There's
thought.
several other spots that I could use, but they're still 12 volt. They just are, they get smaller by amp hour. So that's
Okay,
because it's
yep.
only running a little LED bulb or
So
something.
they
So
do look very similar. Okay, well, that explains it. They're like $35 a piece.
they won't run your car.
And they won't run your car. Kind of
Or
get
they
it.
certainly won't run Commissioner Elgar's hikers for any distance.
We need a little education system. on
Any
hybrids.
other questions on the financials?
One thing I wanted to, I was kind of, we have GEI, so for that South Bar Lake Drain, professional services, it's 12,000, and that's 1 month. So that's from August till September. And it's $12,000.
And I do have an updated drain district accounting for you through September. And in speaking with the drain commissioner, we are going to be moving toward, let's see, I think there's an open walkthrough today on one of our drains. South Bar, it is
South
South
Bar.
Bar. Yeah, they've got their pre-bid meeting today. Bid opening on November 30th, so and then we have 90 days from there to look at financing in January, February. So this is the next, they're gonna pull the trigger on this one. So this is probably the legal, because it's accelerated now. And we will, our cost share on South Bar, and I'll give you the update if you'd like it today on on the drains. Our county share is 56,000. We can recoup 5625 from the road commission. We have pre-spent, including this 12, it'll be 97,000. So in the end, this financing on South Bar is going to reimburse the general fund $47,000. So spend this 12 and get this going. There'll probably be more, but they build that into the financing of the project. South Bar, the project cost is $450,000, the total project cost.
Once again, for a private road, no one can use, and I don't think there's a home worth less than $1 million in that little stretch there. I know we went with this engineer at the advice of our drain commissioner, because he's an expert in this, but I think it would behoove us to put that back out for bid. I've just been alarmed by the size of the bills for some time, and I honestly don't know. I just don't know if that's compatible or not, or we don't have anything to compare it to. I don't know if it's best thing for the county or not, and I'd like to know that.
And we, this update I gave you is through September. So this bill, this 12,000 we're discussing is not a part of this. So that's, I'm just kind of building that in math in my head. Drain commissioner also said that the other drains probably will be funded in 24. So we're drawing to the funding of all of these. And I'm sure John loves to hear that.
I don't remember how much we plugged in for those budget to you.
Well, in your next committee of the whole, it is, I got it built into your statutory commitments so that you know kind of the net figure impact if you had to come up with cash, because it will be a 24 item, I believe, if the drain commissioners, I believe he's on track to get these done next year.
I had one more, and now I can't find it because I didn't have a pencil in front of me when I was reading these. And I'll find it later.
Any other questions for Kathy? Thank you, Kathy.
Sure.
We're now down to special reports. Any special reports?
I did have one more question. I mean, I just thought of what one of them was. This isn't the one I remember seeing, but I did see through there that we have BSNA support. So who has BSNA right now? John has BSNA.
And I think the bill you're looking at was the installation of the software, the assessing software.
The dog licenses, and that's John.
Travel and all the township treasurers in the county, because they all communicate with John.
They all use BSNA and communicate with John through that. Okay.
And they have their own contracts, but some of them participate live with John. And I think there's a couple that have standalone and pay their own support. But I do believe this one was specifically referencing the setup of the special assessment.net software that you approved this year to handle special assessment districts, specifically now the drain assessment.
Any other questions? Any staff reports?
Oh, and let me back up. This also is the contract for, we've got the contract for support.
I thought it was support.
It is. It's on November 1st through November 1st of 24. And it's the tax system, animal license system, delinquent tax system, the assessing system, which all fall under this, and permit application, which is building safety. So the 17,000 that you're seeing is support for all of those modules.
Very good.
Yes.
I just see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 safety net invoices. Just what, the discussion with safety net about our level of service that we're getting, that's still ongoing between the administrator and safety net, or?
Yes, I understand it is, and we should ask that question of the administrator. I don't know what the status is, but she was talking to me.
That's a lot of money. That's a.
Any other questions for Kathy before we move on to special reports? I have one, and John and I were a part of a very informal meeting, but just to let you know that the road commission will be coming to us in the next couple of months to talk about building needs. And they're talking internally about that now, but whether they repair facilities or replace facilities. And I think we were just asked to make sure that commissioners were informed that on the road commission themselves, commissioners are talking about that. No concrete plans, but just discussion. Reach out to the road commission about that. Right, John? Right. Any other reports? Okay.
Do they have the ability to bond? Or do we have to back their bond?
Very good question. I don't have an answer.
It'll come to us. Thank you, John.
Thank you. We now at that part of our agenda, when those that have stuck with us or come lately are here to make public comments. And Bill?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township. Glad that I timed it right to get here before you got over the public comment. Got just a few things to cover here. Got one in front. I want to move this to the front. Rainbow belongs to God. That's one view based on God's word. LGBT is they make up their own rules. Man's word or God's word. And go to tcfamily.org and see our latest flyer. I've got the 2-page version. We've handed out about 800 of them. And hopefully we'll hand them out this weekend too at the Christmas tree lighting in downtown Traverse City.
Christmas Day is on Monday, December.
I'm just helping you out there. Yeah. Yeah, that James goes to every year, and I'll see him down there. And but he's not the only one that goes. And they also have a light parade there. And Up North Pride had a float in it last year with teenagers sort of kind of dancing, and kindergarten isn't young enough. These kids are small. These kids are like 1 to 5 in their backpacks. I was down there last year. It was very crowded. I'd recommend you go. But they can't be young enough for them to go to try to indoctrinate them in this false worldview based on man's word. So I'd encourage you to go. And we're going to be encouraging everyone to go to my website, tcfamily.org, and look at the 5-page version where you'll see the 10 commandments of the LGBTQ and woke generation. You'll see how TC Central High School, they complain about banning books, but they have 500 books promoting homosexuality and 0, not a nothing on the other side. And you can read about the 7 miserable men who started this whole escapade, starting with Alfred Kinsey on the back. It's just in one chart. It's real easy to look it over. And then the little handout I had here was just as I was watching, I'm seeing, you can't see the people here. I'm probably cut in half. The sheriff and the deputy on that top picture, that's just a screenshot. And so it's more interesting when you can see who's talking. So if you could talk to the camera guy and maybe have him widen it just a little bit, so it'll be more interesting for the people and more informative, you know. The second little picture is the 10 points of true election integrity. Clean out the voter rolls, ban electronic voting equipment, all of it has got to go completely. Voter ID and paper ballots only. Ban mail-in voting, ban early voting, drastically smaller precincts, ban ballot harvesting like in Muskegon and who knows elsewhere, 7 other places in Michigan and who knows elsewhere. Make election day a holiday, or maybe a holy day, where we're sacred honor of, for, and by the people. Increase transparencies. We have cameras everywhere, but on our most important thing, we don't. Prison sentence for fraud. And then the third topic, I just mentioned the canvassing board again. One of the 3 canvassers that were there kind of smirked. He kind of had to peek because I put my sign back against the wall. It was kind of hidden because I didn't want to cover the flag. He had to peek to read it, kind of smirked like, oh yeah, no election, no voting equipment. Well, these are the guys that are supposed to find any fraud. They should be open to seeing any, oh, you think there's fraud? Please tell me about it. I'm on the canvassing board. I have to vote for this. I don't want to vote for anything that's fraudulent. That's the proper attitude. And again, second opportunity to speak wasn't given. These are the guys that are supposed to root out the fraud. Shasta County, California. They and 20 other counties decided to go to paper ballots, but the state said, no, no, no. That should be enough to show the fraud in the system. And also that you can't recall elected officials because they were going to, that's the process. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Thank you.
Oops, I'm sorry.
Thank you for
Get
coming
you there.
today. Any commissioner comment? Commissioner Algar?
I hesitate, but I need to say that I feel sad whenever I hear that LGBTQ youth are being told, I think that the kinds of decisions that go into that lifestyle change are between the individual and their God. And those kids struggle. There's a high suicide rate. It's very, very difficult growing up in our society. Feelings of self-worth are fragile in the teen years. And I would hope that we support each individual in their own growth path and respect that that is between them, their parents, their God, and that we not ever do anything to add any sense of shame to kids who are already struggling with their own sense of self-worth and self-acceptance. They are very fragile. So I just wanted to express my sadness.
Mr. Kramer?
I just want to say that, Bill, this is probably the longest running movement in all of human history, if what you're saying is true, because the LGBTQ community has been around since the beginning of humanity. So they're doing great.
Any other commissioner comment?
No way.
Thank you. We are now down to approval of financials.
I would recommend approval of claims and accounts, $321,313.25.
Support. All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
I would recommend approval of post audit, $13,366,904.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
Good job, Doug.
That one down.
Yes.